All doing today? We finally have Kouri Richins' preliminary hearing. And let me explain the preliminary hearing really quickly, because initially this preliminary hearing was supposed to happen, I think, back in May, if I remember correctly, but the state wanted to have 3 days. So they had to push the preliminary hearing back a little bit. And then Kouri Richins had her attorney quit on her. It seems like she was unable to afford paying for her attorney. And so the judge instead assigned her some public defenders. And if you guys remember, this was her previous attorney, Sky Lazaro, very distinct attorney. And so now we finally have the preliminary hearing. But here's the thing. I heard that the preliminary hearing was not going to be streamed. So I was like, okay, I guess we'll just read about it in the news later on. But then yesterday, when day one of the preliminary hearing was happening, I saw it was being live streamed on Law and Crime, but it was like an hour delay. So I don't know. There was a lot of mix-ups that I have with this preliminary hearing, which is all over the place. But we are here now, day 2 of the preliminary hearing. Day 1, I haven't seen it yet, but I just read like a little recap about it and I started watching the beginning of it. But in the day 1 of the preliminary hearing, we had a detective that went up there and testified. I think there was a digital forensics, if I remember correctly. And then there was a forensics accounting. Now for the preliminary hearing, basically, this is a way for the judge to determine whether or not there's enough evidence for Kouri Richins to go to trial. So of course, Kouri Richins, she doesn't want to go to trial. You know, she wants the case to be dismissed and, you know, we'll see what happens. But I think we got a lot of evidence against her from what I've heard and read about so far. But for those of you guys who are not familiar with Kouri Richins, she is known as a children's book author, but she only made 1 book, if I remember correctly. But she's accused of poisoning her husband, Eric Richins, with fentanyl. I think they found about 5 times the amount of lethal dosage of fentanyl in his system. And so she tried saying that, like, oh, I don't know what happened to him. He went to bed. And then, like, I went to my children's room. And then I came back and he was dead. I don't know what happened. But I did give him, like, a Moscow meal. And so that's why they think that, oh, maybe she poisoned him with a Moscow meal. He drank it and then he overdosed with fentanyl. Now, about a year after her husband died, she wrote a children's book because they do have 3 little children together. And she wrote a children's book to help her 3 kids deal with grief, which is kind of crazy because we saw that television interview when she was up there and she was talking like, yes, you know, like I wrote this book for my children, blah, 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 blah. And then shortly afterwards, she gets charged and arrested. So crazy thing. Hi, Taxi. I know, long time no see. I missed you guys. I hope you guys are doing well. So let's watch day 2 of the preliminary hearing. I think the state has already rest on day 1. I think he's going to go up there and talk really quickly. And then I'm sure it will be the defense's turn to present their side. And then the judge will determine whether or not there's enough. I think I heard that today might be a shorter day, which will be good. And then as for day 1, maybe I'll watch it with you guys, or maybe I'll just do like a video recap of it when I'm done with it. So we'll see what happens today. But I had a bunch of other things to stream this week. I was going to cover Sarah Boone, Donald Adelson. Like I had it all lined up. But then I was like, oh, I guess we can watch Kouri Richins' preliminary hearing. So let's do this instead. But Taxi, thank you so much for the $5.99. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your support. Chantal, hello. Kiki, Lemon, I hope you girls are doing well. Christine, hello, hello. All right, y'all. Well, I have boosted up the audio because the audio for this is not the greatest. We boosted up the audio and we'll just adjust the audio from there to see how it is. But let's listen to the preliminary hearing. And then I do think they have like a 1-hour lunch break. So maybe during the lunch break, we'll listen to some parts of day 1 or something. But yeah, Kouri Richins. Let's start. Hi, Christy Wolf. Hello.
Consider it, and the court should fully consider it. What happened?
Oh, I forgot to mention the motive. What will be the motive for Kouri Richins? It's a boring motive. It's always the same thing. Money, greed, cheating. I have another spouse. So she allegedly has someone that she was cheating with. She was in a lot of debt because she tried to flip houses and that wasn't very successful. And, you know, there was a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes with her and money stuff. So it seems like the reason why she killed her husband was because of money. And, you know, she probably found another partner to move on with. Now, in addition to being charged with her husband's murder, she's also charged with, I got the list here. Kouri Richins has been charged with mortgage fraud, forgery, insurance fraud for allegedly forging loan applications and fraudulently claiming insurance benefits after her husband's death. So she's got a slew of charges. And man, it is a hot mess. I feel bad for her kids because I do wonder who are her kids with. Are they with the mom side of the family or the dad side of the family? I hope it's with the dad side of the family. Hi, Marie. Hello, hello. I like this judge. He's got a nice deep voice.
Before a charged event and what happens after a charged event is probative of the event, particularly in this case. Let me maybe explain in some greater detail.
Sure.
Oh no, why are the captions unavailable? What? Usually they have the captions available. I don't know why it's unavailable right now.
I guess further to that point, Your Honor, to consider the attempted homicide in isolation.
This is the state, by the way. If you guys aren't familiar with the faces of the attorneys, so we don't have Sky Lazaro anymore. Brandon, hello. Oh my gosh, Brandon, thank you so much for the $1.99. Thank you for your support. Yes, happy Tuesday, everyone. Thank you, thank you. So this is the state right now. I don't know his name yet, but once we get his name, I will write it down.
Or as a discrete event, I think would be an error. The best evidence of the attempted homicide by poisoning on Valentine's Day is the actual homicide by poisoning 17 days later. All of the defendant's motive that existed for...
So they think that she actually attempted to poison him a couple weeks prior, and because that was unsuccessful, she did it again 2 weeks afterwards. I guess it was after Valentine's Day.
The homicide also exists for the attempted homicide, and maybe let me just kind of detail some of that for the court. I don't want to belabor the briefing, but there's some highlights there.
I agree with you. The financial motives that existed in March existed in February.
That's correct. But it's not only the financial motive, Your Honor. There is, and I don't want to recap it unless it's helpful for the court. I can recap the financial motives.
I think I have those sufficiently in hand.
Your Honor, the also...
Yeah, no need to recap the financial motives.
The second motive that is just as present in February as it was in March, 17 days later, was her love interest in Mr. Grossman and their planning of the future. And specifically, the purchase of the $3 million Midway mansion where she discussed raising children and farming with him about a month earlier.
I guess what I'm saying is you don't need to
I can't wait to see more of those text messages between her and her lover.
prove motive beyond a reasonable doubt. The state has shown probable cause for it.
Okay. So then I guess the takeaway, Your Honor, is that the same motive for the charged homicide it's identical to the attempted homicide.
I agree.
Okay, I will move on.
Yeah. And candidly, I think the state has probable cause that she procured fentanyl prior to February 14th. The state has shown probable cause that she wanted something stronger after February 14th and saw it again. Made a reference to the Michael Jackson stuff, which I think at least in the preliminary hearing stage I can take judicial notice refers to a well-known event in which someone took a controlled substance and died. I'm tracking all of that.
Okay.
Where I stumble or where I pause is, do we have an evidentiary foundation for a non-speculative inference that she actually gave Eric Richins a controlled substance on February 14th?
So we do, Your Honor. Let's...
Or attempted to do so.
Sure. Let's kind of focus in then on February 14th with the understanding that she 2 days earlier, the probable cause understanding that she 2 days earlier purchased fentanyl from Ms. Lauber.
Got it.
Okay. So her conduct on Valentine's Day helps establish that she, in fact, provided the fentanyl to Eric Richins. And so her conduct that day starts early in the morning when she purchased a sandwich from the Mirror Lake Diner.
Well, we know she makes a purchase from the Mirror Lake Diner, right?
Yes, sir.
We don't know that it's a sandwich based upon admissible evidence.
Sir, we do.
Tell me how.
The invoice from the Mirror Lake Diner entered into evidence as Exhibit 66.
Go ahead.
Shows I think it's labeled on the invoice, it's breakfast sandwich.
I feel like there's an unnecessary microphone on somewhere that's picking up a lot of like this heavy noise. I wish, I don't know if their sound system is set up properly or not. If they could just isolate the voice of whoever's talking, and that way we don't hear all the shuffling and all that in the background.
Yeah, bagel sandwich.
Okay, bagel sandwich. And Your Honor, we also know from the defendant's own words that in her text message with her best friend, she admits to purchasing a sandwich that day.
Remind me, which exhibit is that? We're going to need to talk about that.
I'm going to need some help on that.
I know what you refer to, but I just need to look at it with you.
Yeah, I might have it in my notes, Your Honor. If not, we're working on that
Okay.
on the side.
We can go chronologically.
So we know from the invoice and from her text message that she purchased a sandwich that morning from the Mirror Diner. We also have, as the court's seen, bank statements that confirm a purchase, phone call that confirms an order. The receipt corroborates, the invoice corroborates that the phone call related to the order.
Now, remember, they're alleging that she got the fentanyl from her, I guess, her housekeeper. And her housekeeper, well, has some own issues of their own where the defense is trying to say that, like, oh, she's not reliable. She's not a reliable witness because what if, she was threatened with being in trouble and that she was willing to work the police, that she was willing to work with law enforcement, she would further be in trouble. Because I think the housemaid, I think she was like a convicted felon or something. So like her being in possession of drugs or selling drugs would further get her into trouble. And so the defense is trying to say, or at least Sky Lazaro, when she was her attorney, was trying to say that like, oh, she was just trying to cooperate with the police so she wouldn't get in trouble. So maybe she's lying. Maybe she's unreliable and stuff like that.
66.
Wait, really? Your husband's voice is like this? He has someone who works with that has called him for no other reason to hear. What? I'd be like, ma'am, sir, stop calling me.
So she purchases the sandwich from the Mirror Lake Diner, and I think it's something like a 907 pickup is what the invoice shows. We then know at 9:43, the defendant, Exhibit 8, Your Honor, is a text message with her best friend.
Okay.
We then know at 9:43, she text messages her paramour that she's on her way. And
Kouri's paramour is her lover. I guess she saved it as my paramour in her cell phone contact.
9:49, she sends him a navigation screenshot that shows her kind of leaving the campus area with an arrival time at some unknown destination approximately an hour from then. We also know, based on her text activity with her paramour, that they were essentially together all day. And we know that because, as the court can see, they text frequently throughout the day. But throughout that day, they weren't texting with each other. And I think the reasonable inference is they were not texting with each other because they were together.
So now this is what we're all wondering. Was her love interest also involved in this as well? Or was he just like dating her on the side and he had no idea that she had this plan to poison and kill her husband?
While the defendant is an hour or so away from Eric Richins with her paramour, Eric Richins has some medical event strong enough that he texts the defendant and says he's considering going to the hospital. We have that text exchange in evidence.
Great.
Feeling sick enough to go to a hospital, and then sleeping in the garage, which he also texts, for about 2 hours, which is consistent with no activity on his phone and associated devices. All of that is consistent with the reaction to fentanyl.
Are they trying to say that on Valentine's Day that she went to the sandwich shop, bought the sandwich, and then gave it to her husband? And then hoping that he'll be poisoned, and then she spent the time with her lover at that point? Is that what we're talking about here? Hi, Joa. How are you doing today? Hello, hello.
I've read it, but I can't remember the number. The number 4, the 1102 from the person that lays that foundation regarding a reaction to fentanyl.
Yeah, so that's the toxicologist, Matt Slauson.
Okay, thank you. Keep going.
Your Honor, also in evidence is literature from the Mayo Clinic, which lays a similar foundation. Okay, so we now have, right, in the chronology of Valentine's Day 2022, the defendant and her paramour an hour or more away. Eric Richins is sick enough that he's considering going to the hospital, and he's inactive for 2 hours. All of that consistent with fentanyl poisoning. And then, at that point, the defendant's own words are kind of important here because he texts her, right? of his illness, of considering going to the hospital, and what she says is chilling.
Oh, what did she say?
Take a nap. And then she doesn't check on him for 2 hours. She doesn't come home, she doesn't text, she doesn't call, she doesn't check on him. Their next communication is 2 hours later when Eric Richins checks in with the defendant. Notably, throughout the day, Valentine's Day, and
I was thinking maybe it sounds like something from a Colleen Hoover novel.
thereafter, the defendant's reaction to Valentine's Day events is consistent with the consciousness of guilt.
Conscious of guilt? How?
She had texted on February 11th and 12th significantly with her drug dealer during a time frame that corresponds with the drug dealer's purchase of fentanyl at the Maverick and DeCraver.
Right.
Those texts are deleted from her phone. She texted with the drug dealer 30 times, about 30 times in Mr. Kouri-Richins' testimony, on Valentine's Day, and those texts are deleted. There is no good reason the defendant is spending Valentine's Day with her paramour and texting her drug dealer 30 times. Eric Richins texted the defendant a photo while he was texting her about feeling ill and considering going to the hospital. That photo is deleted from the defendant's phone, and also from Eric Richins' phone. That is in the moment consciousness of guilt. The next day,
Forgive me, I don't recall testimony from Mr. Kouri-Richins or any documentary evidence about when those images were deleted. Now, I acknowledge they were deleted sometimes after they were created, but
very young.
okay. Okay.
The next day, after Valentine's Day, February the 15th, 2022, the defendant lamented to her paramour, if he could just go away, life would be so perfect. And then 2 weeks later, she assured her paramour, life is going to be different, I promise.
Oh my God, why do they always do this? All these accused murderers, they always text their lovers saying the same shit, like, oh, things are going to be good now between the two of us. Ooh, law enforcement ain't going to find this text message. Like, what are you thinking? Come on.
Hang in there until Friday.
No.
On Friday, Eric Richins is dead.
No, she even gave a specific date. Oh, Kouri Richins. What a moron.
Life is going to be different, I promise. Hang in there until Friday. On Friday, Eric Richins is dead. We've referenced Exhibit 8, the text messages that the defendant sent to her best friend.
I don't think that's 8. I think Cellbrite is 8. Can you give me that number?
Same thing with Chris Watts. Same thing with Scott Peterson. Anyone else that comes to our mind? Killing their spouse, trying to be with their lover.
Well,
They all said the same thing. Like, oh, after Christmas, things will be good now.
Your Honor, it would be found in a Celebrate extraction.
Oh, my apologies. Okay.
So,
It's not like a screenshot. It looks
Oh.
like it out.
Let's get here together. I need the exact language of that. It would
Because
be-
I don't know if she even had a burner phone. I don't know if this was her personal cell phone, and then she was just deleting the messages after the fact. Lacey Peterson. Yeah, Scott Peterson.
Okay, got it. So this is, we got to be specific about this, a June 18, 2022 communication, correct?
yes, Your Honor, it's
Okay.
June 18, 2022. I can give the court some context, which the court's already familiar with on the timing. The timing relates to the same allegation kind of is wrapped up in the attempted homicide charge that was made in the civil litigation. And timing would suggest, I think it is reasonable to infer that they were discussing this text is a discussion of the Valentine's Day 2022 incident.
Yeah, and then she literally gave him like the murder weapon. Like, oh, I did give him a Moscow Mule. And then, of course, cops going to be like, oh, okay, well, let's locate the cup and figure out if there's fentanyl all over it. Hey, Samano, how are you doing today? Oh, from Iceland. I've always wanted to go to Iceland. How's the weather over there right now? Is it cold season or is it hot season? I want to go to Iceland. It looks beautiful.
As put forth publicly in civil filing.
I have some questions about this when you're done going through the evidence.
Okay.
I also have questions about the February 15 text messages, so just put 2 pins in those. I'm not questioning the existence. I know which exist.
No, sure. So Beckley, I'm supposed to get a copy, whatever the
Okay.
February 15th text was.
Well, see, if you would just go away, ... and then
Yeah.
I promise we'll be together on Friday or worse to that effect.
Yeah, sure.
And remember, from what we heard so far, all the money issues that was going on in Kouri Richins' life was from her own doing, from her own failed business ventures. It wasn't like she was in a relationship where her husband was, putting them in the fucking red because he was spending money and gambling and he was making bad investment decisions, stuff like that. For what we heard so far, it was mostly Kouri Richins. Like, she was in so much debt. She borrowed money from like hard lenders. So like, it's like when you get a good some amount of money, when you get a good amount of money, but you're promising to pay it back in a short period of time because the interest rate is like so high. And so what happened was she was in debt with so many of these like hard lenders, and that she ended up fucking herself over and just accruing her debt more and more and more. Ugh.
Okay.
Greedy people.
We can discuss those kind of texts when we're both looking at them.
Okay.
The text to her best friend regarding Valentine's Day. The defendant says, it was Valentine's Day and Eric and I were both working from home that day. We know that to be false. We know that to be false from her text messages with Eric himself. We know that to be false from her text messages with her paramour. We know that to be false from the navigation screenshot.
Why would she lie to her friend? Oh, was she trying to establish a fake alibi? Maybe?
Continuing with the text, she says, he, meaning Eric, never broke out in hives or used an EpiPen. She did not know that. She was not with him.
True. She was with her lover. I
The
wish
court
she'd
can
known.
reasonably infer that the opposite is true. She is lying about being with him. She is lying about him not breaking out in hives. She is lying about him not using an EpiPen because she knows those facts are indeed true and indeed inculpatory. Further answering your... So do you want to discuss this text, or should I continue on with kind of further answering your question is how the homicide charge kind of relates directly to the attempted homicide charge?
Well, let's pause here for a second.
Yes, sir.
We also skipped over the...
Well, we know how dumb she is because we all know about that that letter that she wrote to her mom, trying to direct her mom and her brother to say what they needed to say to help her out. And then when they found and confiscated that letter, she was like, oh, well, I was just writing a book. God, these fucking idiots. They thought I was writing a letter to intimidate witnesses. No, I wasn't doing that. I was writing a book about going to Mexico and getting drugs with my father and then blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, sure. Oh, God.
Or did mention in that recitation. Remind me of the date where she asks CL for something stronger.
So, Your Honor, that... I don't know that I know a precise date. It's somewhere around February the 25th.
It's here somewhere.
Yeah, lots of true crime stuff happening this week. Yeah, the walk the dog letter. And her explanation of it and calling everyone idiots.
I think it was 12 days later.
Hi, Joseph.
And Your Honor, the court raises an important point, right? I said at the outset that the best evidence of the attempted homicide by poisoning is the actual homicide by poisoning 17 days later. And the defendant learned from the attempt and applied it to the homicide. And we see that with what the court just raised. She wanted something stronger. She learned that whatever she used on Valentine's Day wasn't strong enough, which is why she went back and asked for something stronger. But she had a similar MO, right? You know, her MO is to go to the drug dealer, procure fentanyl, and 2 or 3 days later, 4 days later, administer fentanyl. That is the same. The drug is the same. The drug dealer is the same. The timing is the same. But she learned. She learned she needed something stronger. She also learned how to administer it. She learned that putting it in a sandwich where Eric Richins could take a bite, feel the effects, set the sandwich down, was not the proper way to administer a fatal dose of fentanyl. Instead, she administered it with a lemon shot, where Eric Richins would throw it back all at once. She says that in her journal article, her journal note at Exhibit 49.
Wait, hold on a second. She had a journal? Excuse me? Wait, hold on a second. What is this journal? So she gave the fentanyl in the form of a shot instead, and then just happened to give him a Moscow Mule?
And she learns that it takes a truckload of fentanyl to kill him. She learns that one bite in a sandwich isn't enough. It has to be stronger, it has to be administered at once, and it has to be a lot. And that's why Eric Richins' toxicology shows 5 times the lethal amount in his blood and 20,000 nanograms per milliliter remaining in his gastric fluid.
Enemy, thank you so much for the sub with the Prime. I appreciate that. Enjoy your emotes, enjoy your badge. Welcome. And thank you so much for using your Prime sub on me on Twitch. Thank you. I hope you're doing well. Wait, I need to know more about this journal that Kouri Richins has. What? Dear Diary, I put 100 milliliter of poison today. What?
The attempt and the homicide are connected in MO and lessons learned.
If we view, let's imagine for a moment that everything through February 15, well, February 26th, stays the same. Imagine Eric Richins is still alive. The text message on June 18 gets sent. I imagine you tell me we'd still have probable cause of attempted murder.
We would, Your Honor, and I guess that goes back right to the standard of this hearing. You know, all reasonable inferences go to the state.
Right. And I hear you telling me it's a non-speculative inference that you tried to poison him because we have her admitting that she ordered lunch from here at the diner. We have him having a significant enough event that he contemplates going to the hospital. We have text messages on February 15 that draw reasonable inference that she wanted dead. We have her out looking for something stronger when he did not die on February 14. We have a financial motive. We have the medical foundation. The difficulty is, right?
What is the difficulty?
And maybe this just highlights the low threshold that is the probable cause determination. And I imagine this is what Ms. Nestor and Ms. Lewis is going to tell me, is this turns just about every possession charge into an attempted murder charge if the spouse has some medical event around the same time. But here you'd say...
And the spouse dies 17 days later under very, very similar circumstances, same MO, connection between the two.
And is it 404 that lets me connect the dots here?
I mean, that's a lot of coincidences. It's like, okay, you're in possession, and then someone just happens to get sick, and then someone just happens to die afterwards. Like, that's a lot of coincidences.
I don't even think the court has to go to 404. I think the court can connect. I mean, certainly it's probative. So, yeah, certainly it's relevant. I guess the court could connect the dots through probative, but there's no doubt, especially, you know, returning to the fact that this is a domestic violence case. The court sees the consistency in the domestic violence defendant's conduct throughout. The motive is super strong. I mean, I know we've kind of agreed that the motive is present in both circumstances, but
It's equally present. It's separated by merely 3 weeks.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's equally as strong. Now, Your Honor, the court raised, this isn't speculative, and it's not. And Schmidt kind of talks to the notion, the point, right, that the court's job here is not to sift through the evidence and find the most reasonable explanation, just to make sure that the state's the most reasonable inferences, just to make sure, rather, that the state's inference is reasonable.
Hi,
And we
Moondog.
leave the most reasonable inference question to the jury.
Okay. All right, so if you've got probable cause for count 2, you've got it for count 4.
Yes, sir, I think two goes out, or 4 goes out, 2 goes.
Right. I think I understand the state's position here. You will, of course, get the last word on counts, on all counts, but certainly counts 2 and 4. I have some questions regarding some of those initial counts.
Yes, sir.
I mean, to me, it doesn't seem like a stretch. When I first heard about the Murdoch case, I thought that was a stretch. I was like, oh, like the man literally murdered his family because his financial stuff was about to come out in the air, and then he murdered his family for sympathy. Oh, that doesn't seem like it really makes sense. I mean, maybe. But then when we sat down for the court and then we listened to how the events unfolded and then the roadside shooting and all that stuff, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this totally makes sense. Murdoch is just a crazy, loony person. Would do something like that.
Bear with me for a moment. Count 7, the $100,000 true stage policy. I'm following the state's argument. I'm not sure what count 8 refers to.
Yes, Your Honor, and in the statute under count 8, the insurance fraud statute has different non-exclusive, or I guess different exclusive theories of presenting an insurance fraud claim.
Certainly.
And then count 8 is kind of the broadest
Yes, movie trailer narration. Yes, yes, yes.
claim. It's the scheme claim.
Well, for count 7, right, it's either it could be the forged signature, it could be the false representations regarding how Eric got the fentanyl in him. Either one of those, I think, would get you there.
Yep.
Let's just say it's the false statements regarding the fentanyl.
Sure.
You have a forgery count
Sure.
regarding the false signature, I think, in either, bear with me, 9 or 10, or maybe 11. Candidly, I think 11 is the forged signature on the $100,000 policy.
Sure.
So
That relates to the claim, right? Count 7 is a false claim.
right.
On an insurance policy. Count 8 is a scheme devised to get the money falsely from an insurance company.
But
Can or cannot involve a claim.
fair enough, but is it I acknowledge that we don't need to get into merger today, but
Sure.
is it the forged signature on the $100,000 true stage?
Sure, it's the signed application on January 28th and 29th. It starts with the application
Okay.
for the policy that issued on February 4th,
Right.
10 days before the attempted homicide,
Okay.
a month before the homicide. It starts with that signed kind of application that the court will recall. There was no way for the insurance company to contact Eric Richins. Rather, they can only contact the defendant, right? The defendant used her business P.O. box. The defendant used her email. The defendant provided an improper phone number.
Okay.
And so submitting that application begins the scheme.
Got it.
Then the scheme continues through the false claim for the money.
So count 7 is the false claim on the insurance. Count 8 is the scheme to get that insurance money.
And the evidence of that is the claim log we submitted into evidence as Exhibit 67. But different than the false claim where the mens rea and the actus rea is just submitting a false claim with the intent to get paid on it. The scheme is much more sweeping. The scheme in count 8 is I'm going to submit a false application for insurance on Eric Richins' life. I'm going to then cause his death and then seek money.
Understood. All right, so with respect to the 3 forgery counts, 11 is allegations regarding Eric Richins' signature on the application for the $100,000 true stage policy.
Correct, Your Honor. That's the policy of Exhibit 17.
What is 9 and 10?
9 is the fraudulent bank statement that the defendant provided to Ironbridge, and 10 is the similarly fraudulent statement that the defendant presented to Boomerang. Those are the cut and paste job
Got it.
statements.
And so the forgery count of 9 is related to the mortgage fraud count that is in 5, right? And then the forgery count in 10 is related to the mortgage fraud count in 6.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Anything else you want to put on the record at this time?
No, Your Honor, I'll be back.
So is that a total of 11 counts that they're charging her with?
Very good.
Wow.
Ms. Lewis, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm going to address really just counts 1 and 3, and a little bit of 4, and then Ms. Nestor is going to address count 2
Okay.
and the remaining counts.
Tell me where you see the gap on count 1.
All right, well, here's where I see the gap on count 1. So I understand that there was a finding made at the detention hearing. And I understand that the court can consider the transcripts from that hearing. However, I think we're in a kind of an interesting situation because the burden of proof has to be at the preliminary hearing, and the court does need to make a new finding at this hearing. And
Okay.
I actually think, interestingly, that this is a situation where additional information that came in makes it less likely and makes it more difficult for the state to establish a reasonable belief as to the first element of aggravated murder, that she actually intended and knowingly killed Mr. Richins. Because what we learned yesterday is we have now the affidavit, or the 1102, from Ms. Lauder. Well, what that really tells the court is only one thing, is that she believes she gave fentanyl to Ms. Richins. She doesn't know what she gave Ms. Richins. Whatever she gave Ms. Richins has been through at least 3 people before it came to Ms. Richins. Ms. Lauder got it from somebody, Mr. Crozier, who got it from somebody else that we don't know who that other person is. None of these people manufactured it. None of these people tested it. So we don't know what was given to Ms. Richins.
It could have just been a sugar pill, y'all. Oh my goodness, what a very interesting angle. Like I said, defense attorneys, no, she's a public defender, but man, they get so creative in the what ifs.
I don't disagree that we don't know, but knowing is not the legal standard that I'm required to apply today. So tell me why Ms. Lauder's 1102 is insufficient to support a reasonable belief in the parlance of preliminary examination law that the stuff that she provided was fentanyl.
Well,
Yes,
let's
for
look at
trial.
the distribution counts and examine that.
Yeah, we can do it. All right, go ahead.
So, looking at the distribution, and I'll backtrack a little. So, Detective O'Driscoll said that he
Protein pills, protein powder packed into pills. Maybe.
had no way of knowing. That he did not know what was in the pills.
He just knows that they are blues or greens, which, given his experience with, say, narcotics, but with controlled substances, is consistent with street fentanyl.
Blues, he said.
Okay, there you go.
Anyway, I was trying to remember if this was in the record or not before I said it out loud. So,
I think she's got a cute voice, yeah.
that's what was my pause there. But
She seems very bubbly.
I have never seen a distribution case where we don't have anything that was distributed.
You mean a preliminary hearing or a trial? Two very different universes.
Well, personally, neither. Okay? Personally, I have not seen it either place. But I don't think just an individual who's a drug addict saying, I thought I gave her fentanyl, I mean,
Doesn't that form the reasonable belief, though? I mean, by all accounts, Carter Lawler knows the difference between a controlled substance and not.
well, that's not in her affidavit. How do we know that? How do we know that she knows the difference?
With respect, she's in drug court and she faces controlled substance convictions. So apparently she has some experience with
But
it.
Detective O'Driscoll testified that she said initially, and she said it in more than once, that she knew nothing about fentanyl. She didn't deal fentanyl. It's not her drug. And he said that.
These are great trial arguments, but I question whether this would be sufficient to,
Preliminary.
these concerns are sufficient to rule that there's only a speculative basis rather than a reasonable basis. to
And I
find
understand.
that there was provision of a controlled substance.
I mean, I understand your position and where you're headed with this, but I do think we want to, for the record especially, Detective O'Driscoll testified that he could not say with any certainty
Sure.
what happened to those pills. We have no knowledge, no testimony, no evidence, even if those pills were fentanyl. What happened to them? After February 25th. I mean, the third ones were allegedly received after
Right.
Mr. Richins' death, which is interesting in terms of what these pills were actually for. And I think, and again, maybe a trial argument, it's interesting that if that was the purpose of these pills, that they were still being handed out afterwards. But he said he could not testify what happened to those pills. He cannot testify what was in those pills. And he does not know how, if those pills were given to Mr. Richins, and if they were, how they were given, who gave them, did he take them himself. There isn't any evidence as to that. And I understand, the position and the very low standard we're looking at here. I get it. But that would be...
To be clear, the court's position
I think the jury would be able to connect the dots.
is based on an application of the standard, not because I have an
I
independent belief
understand.
of what did or
And
didn't
I didn't
happen.
mean to imply that it was your personal belief. I understand the standard.
Right.
And your application of the standard. Our position is...
I don't know how old the judge is. I can't tell. He looks like he could be really young, but he also looks like someone that could be older, just looks young. So I don't know. I don't know if he's young, or if he's like old, but just looks really young.
Still that there needs to be something more when you look at everything that's been presented as evidence in this case up to this point. And particularly on the distribution count. I think it's...
3 or 4.
Well, to both, but there's additional, of course, problems with the February 14th
Right.
distribution.
With if there is evidence sufficient to support a reasonable belief that Kouri Richins put some drugs in a drink and handed it to Eric Richins, there is probable cause for the count 3, right?
Yes,
Okay. All right.
you're right. But I think I made my argument on that. But, and I still think that anything that happened from any of the other...
I was going to do a Sarah Boone stream today, but then this popped up. So I think either I'll push the Sarah Boone stream to a different day, or I'll just do a Sarah Boone video. But yeah, I had a lot of stuff that I want to cover with Sarah Boone.
witnesses, of course, goes any further to show...
We'll get there,
any
Tyrone.
other.
Thanks for asking.
It goes to the motive, which is an element of count 1, especially the Ms. Harrington's testimony. I understand that. But nothing that they said, I think, goes to intentionally or knowingly administering the drugs.
Well, the motive would provide some foundation for intentionally or knowingly. Let me put it differently. If there was no motive, their inference would be harder to draw, correct?
Yeah, here.
Okay.
I think that covers what I have in our record on that. I don't know if you have any other questions, but Ms. Vester will talk about counts 2, and then that, of course, relates directly to count 4. And she'll address the financial ones.
Okay. I think I understand your position on 1/3.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. So recap. She said that even though the drug dealer gave an affidavit saying that she believed that she gave fentanyl to Kouri Richins, we don't know if she really gave fentanyl. It's not like she was the one who made those pills. She got it from at least 3 other people who, the fentanyl went through 3 other people. So we don't know. It wasn't never tested. They weren't the ones who made it. So maybe it wasn't fentanyl. Maybe what Kouri Richins got and gave to Eric was not fentanyl. It was just, I don't know, sugar pills. Interesting angle.
The criminal conduct.
Oh,
that
what
is-
happened? Oh, shit. How did you get up here? Ma'am? Ma'am? I don't know why, but sometimes the streams... they freak out, and then it like starts over. I don't know. This has happened to me before in a low crime stream. I don't know if it's just like a live stream or if it's just... What the fuck? I don't know what happened.
Is the people sitting right here, and it's their
I don't know what happened. Okay, somehow she's talking now. I don't know what happened to the other. I don't know. Okay. All right.
opinions, it's their beliefs. They're not a grand jury, they're prosecutors, they do their best. So what we have created to protect clients from that awesome power that sits at that table is this process of a gatekeeping, that instead of delegating that to a grand jury, people...
She's also part of the defense as well. Also, I appreciate her because she's speaking nice and loudly. Yes, we can listen to this.
in our society that come together and close doors and hear the evidence and decide whether there's enough to put someone through this. They bring it to you. You're the gatekeeper. And this preliminary hearing is a critical right that every single individual who they decide to write a charge against has. And when we come before you, we recognize that it's a low standard. We recognize that probable cause means that. It just means enough to charge you. It doesn't mean enough to convict you. It doesn't mean enough to determine you committed a crime. It's enough to charge you. But that charging decision does matter. And it's going to have a huge, huge impact on the way this case plays out, on the evidence that is brought before the jury, on who will be witnesses, determining what charges get past this gate, you the gatekeeper. So we believe very, very, very strongly that the charge of attempted murder has not met the lowest standard even of probable cause. And that as rare as it is for a judge to say there's not even enough to charge here, it is anticipated that that will happen on occasion, which is why you do thousands of these, right? Because every once in a while, they don't get up to that level. And we think in this case they haven't done it, and we'd like to tell you why.
Okay, tell us
So
why.
thank you for indulging me in that.
I agree with everything you said about the law.
Here are the
What
reasons
is
why.
the essential element of count 2 that you believe the state has either shown no evidence of or insufficient evidence to draw a reasonable inference regarding?
Causation, 100% causation. So, in order for them to establish an attempted murder,
Right.
they have to show that Ms. Richins took some act that caused someone to be in danger of death, right? She had to have caused something that put them at risk, right? Whether they actually died, obviously it's attempt, right? So, I think it's critical that you understand the timeline of that day.
Okay,
and I
tell
want
us.
to walk it through, and I know it may take us a couple of minutes, but I think it shows so clearly that they cannot make the connection. And it's indisputable evidence that's in the Celebrate that has been downloaded off their phones. There's no debate about what happened on those phones, okay? So, in Exhibit 6, there are substances of text between Eric and Kouri that say exactly their communications that day. I want to go back to the very beginning, which is the receipt, which is Exhibit 66 from the Mirror Lake Diner. It shows that Kouri's credit card swiped at
Yeah, I think Kouri Richins was trying to take the angle that no, Eric probably did it to himself. Eric does drugs. But then, in fact, I think people that were his friends were like, Eric does like, I don't know, like weed gummies. I mean, to go from weed gummies to fucking fentanyl, that's a huge fucking hurdle. It's possible that maybe Eric was doing drugs on the side and no one knew about it. But the fact that Kouri Richins is trying to connect, that everyone says that, oh, Eric does weed gummies to, oh, no, Eric does fentanyl at his secret time and doesn't tell anyone. It's like, oh, I don't know if that's believable.
9:07 a.m. and that she ordered a bagel breakfast.
That's why she was trying to get her brother to say that, like, oh, remember that one time, wink, wink, when you and Eric went to Mexico to procure drugs, wink, wink, or something? And then I think she tried to plant other bombs by saying that Eric would smuggle drugs in her suitcase so he wouldn't get in trouble in case he got caught or something like that. But it seems like, I don't know, to me, it just seems more like her just like planting these bombs all over the place. It doesn't really seem like it was Eric that was really doing it. But I mean, if she can get evidence to show that it was actually, in fact, Eric, who does do fentanyl on the side and no one knows about it. If it was Eric who, makes her smuggle drugs or whatever it is, if she can prove it, go ahead. But it seems like so far, it just seems like everything she's just doing is just her just trying to set it up to make Eric look bad. The father of her 3 children.
Sandwich.
And an omelet.
And an omelet. There is a statement under the sandwich that it's over hard, which means it's an egg sandwich. There's an egg in that breakfast sandwich, and I think that's important because I don't know about you, but I'm not eating an egg sandwich 2 to 3 hours after it's brought to me. Did you eat it quick or you don't eat it?
I eat it.
So she brings an egg sandwich home at 9:07. This actually hasn't come in, but I think the court could take judicial notice because of the address on Ms. Carrington's exhibit about the Willow Creek home where they resided. It's about 5 minutes away from this cafe, and I don't think the DA will, or the county attorney will dispute that.
Nothing in Camas is very far away.
Nothing in Camas is very far away, so it's about a 5-minute drive.
Like, yeah, you should eat your egg sandwiches like ASAP because egg sitting there is not good. But I mean, I've known so many people that will just eat an egg sandwich. Like, if you don't have time to eat it right away, it will sit for a little bit and then you'll eat it like maybe like a couple hours afterwards. I've done that before. It's not something like out of the extraordinary. You probably shouldn't do it because you don't want to get food poisoning, but not something that's like, oh, it's impossible that this person would eat an egg sandwich maybe like an hour or 2 right after receiving it.
From the cafe to their home. So best case scenario.
Especially if it's a hard egg sandwich and it's not like a runny egg sandwich. If it's a runny egg sandwich, it's like, ooh, yikes, I don't know about this. But if it's like a hard egg sandwich where it's like, she said it was hard egg, right? When I hear hard egg, I think of like the yellow part is like completely cooked.
Her credit card's being swiped at 9:07. She's getting home around 9:15 in that area.
Is there any evidence that she actually went home?
Correct.
Well, I'm asking.
There is.
Oh, okay.
On the phone. On her phone, the printout of her phone shows her returning back to. Well, actually, they've introduced that exhibit that they blew up that showed that she was on her way to the house, and that's from her home.
Okay.
So she was at home. So there's a period of time where she's at home between 9:15 and 9:41 a.m. with eggs to eat. Now, it is a fair assumption that when you bring eggs home, you eat them quickly. So it is perfectly possible, and just as inferential, that she could have had breakfast with her husband that morning together. And let me tell you why I believe that that's proven in the state's own case. Because at no point in any conversations, any texts between Kouri and Eric, does he ever tell her that he's feeling sick until he tells her at 11:40 something that if I'm still feeling this bad, I'm going to go to the hospital. So it sounds very much that they've already discussed that he doesn't feel well, right? So it is perfectly consistent with Kouri Richins' statement to her friend the day they breakfast together.
I don't know, man. I feel like this is like a Legally Blonde moment. No one eats eggs. No one leaves eggs sitting out there. You have to eat it right away. And if he felt sick 2 hours later, well, that means he probably didn't eat the sandwich. Or if he ate the sandwich, he would have eaten it at 9 o'clock and he would have felt sick right away at 9 o'clock. It's impossible for him to feel sick at 11:40. Because if it was him, he would have eaten the eggs right away. I don't know. Okay.
Which would make it pretty hard to poison someone when they're sitting there and you're handing them their food and watching you hand them their food. So then you have Eric between 10:21 and 12:06.
Kouri used iron so I could handle a bad egg sandwich. Listen, that egg mayonnaise sandwich that I asked you guys about that was sitting on the dashboard for 4 or 8 hours. 4 or 5 hours. I listened to you guys. I didn't fucking eat it. I was going to eat it the next day. I was about to eat it. You know, it was sitting out in the sun. I was going to eat it. But I listened to y'all, okay? And I'm alive.
And these are reflected in exhibit number 38, which shows the locations of calls made by Eric.
Could you pause for a second?
Yes.
Is there a statement that they ate breakfast together?
They just talked about her telling her friend lying that they were together when they ate.
So, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything that you're seeing. Quote, forgive me, folks.
Well, I think what the defense is trying to say is that if Eric consumed the egg sandwich at 9-ish a.m., because, you know, who eats egg sandwiches an hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours later, you would have to consume it right away. If Eric consumed the egg sandwich at 9-ish a.m., he would have felt the effects of fentanyl probably around that time as well, not 2 hours later on. So they were trying to say that, like, oh, well, that must mean that the egg sandwich that he ate didn't have fentanyl in it.
I didn't even make my fucking sandwich, those fucking idiots. It was Valentine's Day, and Eric and I both were working from home that day, and I ordered lunch from Mirror Lake Diner.
Well, that was months later, and she hadn't seen the time. She hadn't been exposed to any of the
Hey, folks, I need you to take a deep breath. Is there any evidence that she has a backward-looking statement saying, I ordered breakfast?
Hi, Zan.
Well, that's the only statement that we're aware of.
Okay.
But at that point, she hadn't seen the time. So she's remembering if it was breakfast, lunch, whatever. I mean, that was months later.
Right.
But she admits she got it at Mirror Lake. She admits they ate it together. She makes up the time of breakfast and lunch. I mean, there's no debate that she was not there at lunchtime. That didn't happen. So,
Right.
so that's clearly a mistake. So she leaves the house at 9:41 and is gone for the rest of the day. Eric drives to multiple other locations after she leaves.
Do we know, help me out, do we know that? Or
Yes.
was he doing the estimating from home? This was unclear to me from the testimony.
So in the Celebrate exhibit that is Eric's phone, it shows where he's making calls from.
Okay.
And so he makes calls from, I think he goes to it looks like the Smith's grocery store, the Walmart. He goes and runs some errands. He's
Right.
making business calls ever since Kouri left, the whole time. After he's eaten the egg sandwich, he's driving around, he's making calls. Then he texts Kouri at 11:27 and talks to her about some soccer fees that the boys owe. And then says a few minutes later, so between 11:27, he's talking about soccer, at 11:33, so he hasn't seen Kouri now in 2 hours, he says, I'm going to go lay down. If I don't feel better, I may go to the hospital.
Right.
And I must respectfully point out that when the prosecution talked about her saying, go take a nap, and how that was chilling, he pulled that completely out of context of the rest of what she said in that text.
He needed to come home.
Well,
Would you like me to come home? Jesus is that bad. You know, she even at one point.
wait, hold on a second. That does look bad. Wait, why would they omit that? Because he said that it was, State said it was really chilling because she says, go take a nap. But I think what he meant that it was like chilling because she never followed up with him. She never texted him any further.
Later in the day talks about, he says, I wish you were here. And she's like, I would cuddle you. So that is very misleading to pull that statement out. And I need to correct that for the record. But regardless now, he hasn't been in her presence for 2 hours. If he ate that sandwich, he ate it around 9:30, give or take, at the latest.
But we don't know that. He might have just eaten it late.
So in that period of time, he's been running errands, doing business calls, texting Kouri, very benign, normal day-to-day texts. Nothing about, I'm about to die, nothing like that. He takes a nap for 2 hours. Then he gets up. They text romantic texts, wish you were here, like to cuddle. That's at 1:43 when he just woke up. The same period of time well, I'm sorry, that's not before. I withdraw that. Continues to make work calls from 1:50 to 2:30. Goes to a soccer game with his kids from 3:52 to 6:11. Takes the boys to get some food. Leaves food for Kouri in his truck as they go back to the game because Kouri is running late. And that's the day. That's the day that they're now saying that you can infer she tried to murder her husband. There's no evidence he ever took a pill from her. There's no evidence that she ever, if she put fentanyl in his egg sandwich at 9:30 and he ate it, he would not be okay for 2 more hours. He would not be. And there's zero evidence. There's not one piece of evidence from Eric himself that he ever took anything from Kouri that day, that he felt bad up until 11:33 is the first time he feels bad. Now, I think you asked a fascinating question when you asked the prosecutor, do I need to consider the death?
I'd rather listen to someone voting ready a negative review of an Airbnb apartment. Wait, what happened? Oh my gosh, dude. I usually have really good experiences with Airbnb, but within the last year, we've had 2 bad experiences. With one of them, we had to escalate to Airbnb and they have to settle it for us.
As support for probable cause of February 14th, looking backwards. And I think that's a really important inquiry because obviously, if you look backwards, everything you're looking backwards at shades how you look at something that happened before. But if you look at that count in isolation, there is no evidence that supports an opportunity for her. There's no evidence to support that he took anything. There's no evidence to support that he had fentanyl, OxyContin. And as a matter of fact, he told, wait, I think this is in.
Can I ask you some specific questions about
Yes.
this?
Yes, Judge, please ask all the questions.
So let's take it one piece at a time here in
Yes.
terms of events after February 14th.
Yes.
Hi, Kiki.
In your view, can the court consider Ms. Richins' text messages to Mr. Grossman on February 15th? Okay.
How much fentanyl was in the sandwich or whatever? The state is alleging that however much fentanyl that she put in the sandwich was not enough to cause Eric Richins to die. So that's why 2 weeks later, she really upped the dose she really upped the dose in March, and that was when he actually died. But I guess like fentanyl, if you were to put fentanyl in someone's sandwich, enough to get them like sick, wouldn't you taste it as you bite into the sandwich though? Because maybe she put a decent amount of fentanyl on the sandwich. He took a bite of it. It was like, ooh, something tastes weird about the sandwich. Oh, I'm not going to finish it. Maybe that's what happened. The owner lived beside you was crazy. Oh my gosh, dude. If it was really bad, I would, escalate it to Airbnb and then maybe even try to get like a refund or something. Yikes.
Consider that at all.
Can you consider them? I mean, I think you can consider anything you want to consider in terms of.
Well, see, that's the question. The Utah rules of evidence say, no, there's all kinds of stuff you can't consider under these set of circumstances, and it's often a difficult slalom course to ski. We did some of this yesterday morning,
Yes.
trying to get a sense from the defense of whether or not the court can consider things like the text mentioned, quote, if he would just go away, end quote.
So
or as evidence of an inference that she wanted him not around anymore.
But that could be divorce. That doesn't have
I
to be death.
understand, and we're not at trial, and I'm not a jury, and so I have to contend with
But how
black.
Because, for example, like if you were to take like Molly, if you were to take like, I don't know, like medication, if you were to take like Adderall, it has that like really bitter taste. You know? I've never tried fentanyl before, at least. I don't know if there's ever been fentanyl laced in any of the drugs that I've tried before. But all the drugs that I've tried before, if you ever like let it touch your tongue, it has like this like nasty ass like bitter taste. I don't know if fentanyl has a taste or if it's tasteless. Is it tasteless? I have no idea. Let's see.
Letter law. Let me just get this out. I really am genuinely interested in your response. I acknowledge there are multiple credible inferences that can be drawn from this evidence. Several of them innocent. But I'm not allowed to pick and choose. I am not allowed to weigh the relative reasonableness or credibility of the inferences. I'm required to draw all reasonable inferences in the state's favor, to view the evidence.
All right, my Google search history. Illicit fentanyl can range in taste, with some users describing it as slightly sweet, a stark contrast to distinctly bitter taste of pure heroin. What does fentanyl taste like? What does it taste like? What the? Oh, okay. Much stronger than morphine. When fentanyl is pure, when it's pure, it doesn't really taste like anything because of how it's made. So we don't know if she got like pure fentanyl or if it was like mixed with like other shit. But if it's made illegally and mixed with other things, it might taste bitter or a bit like chemicals. But how it tastes can change a lot depending on how it's made and what it's mixed with. Gotcha. Mixing fentanyl with other drugs makes it really hard to find and figure out. Fentanyl is super strong, can cause deadly overdoses. Some drug dealers add things to like heroin, cocaine, or fake pills to make them stronger and make them more money. Okay. All right.
As a whole in the state's favor and identify is their reading of the evidence that supports a reasonable.
Yeah, so if it's pure, you won't really taste anything. If it's mixed with other shit, it's going to taste fucking nasty bitter, or it could taste sweet.
And so when you say things like, look, this evidence, she went home, I imagine Mr. Bloodworth is fighting yours to jump up and say, and that just shows she went home to give her the sample. That just shows he went home to give her the sandwich. She went home to give her the sandwich. And so the reason I ask about the stuff afterwards,
Right.
the text messages, her statement regarding ordering them lunch, being home together.
So the text message certainly could be considered for the death, right? Because he's still alive
Well, I
and
got
it's
that.
February 15th,
But that's not my question.
right? So how does the statement on the 15th relate to something that didn't happen? She's talking about it in the future, right? Like,
I guess the question is, if on February 15, she has a text message showing a desire to have him not around anymore, why can't I consider that for her mental state on the 14th?
she doesn't say you should be dead.
I know, but we're talking in terms of reasonable inferences here.
It's, criminal defense lawyers look at these phones, and it's pretty terrifying to think that someone's going to go back and look at text that you wrote about your spouse, years later, and put it all into a cone of literal death threats when you say, I wish he'd leave, he's getting on my nerves, I want him to leave the house, I'm going to leave him, I want to divorce him. They put in Eric's divorce meeting with his divorce lawyer. I mean, this was not a perfect couple. They didn't have a perfect relationship. But to take a context, one single text, and to say that gives you a reasonable belief that she tried to kill him the day before, I don't see the connection at all.
Okay.
I don't. I don't think that is a connection.
So I hear you saying you can consider it judge, but it doesn't have any weight.
I don't think it does.
Okay. Same response regarding her June.
Also, who in the courtroom needs a fucking tissue? Oh my God, I could hear you like snorting all that booger up your nose. Like,
June 18, 2022 text to her friend.
That's what we just said, where she has not seen yet the time. Like, she hadn't had an opportunity to review the timing. So if she mixed up lunch and breakfast, but everything else in there is consistent with what happened that day.
What about her text message on or about February 26th to Carmen Lauber saying I need something stronger?
Oh no, that's right. Needs something stronger. Okay, how is a defense attorney going to explain Kouri Richins saying she needs something stronger when she went back to the drug dealer?
Again, that's after the 14th.
It's a backward-looking statement, though, or at least it's comparative.
Well, apparently she had recently apparently according to Ms. Lauder, she just recently got something from her. So,
Right.
that could be not connected to the 14th at all.
Okay.
So,
Or more specifically, not necessarily referring to what she got on the 11th,
Right.
but could be from the 25th.
but I mean, you have a claim that Mr.
Hello? Oh, God.
Richins was poisoned on the 14th. There is no medical evidence. There is no connection. There is no causation. There is nothing but pure speculation that because they believe she tried to kill him and successfully killed him in March, that must mean she tried it before. That is not enough to reach a reasonable belief that someone, and that's the question you asked at the very beginning.
Right.
Just because, I mean, it's like a backwards acting in conformity argument.
Yes.
It's a backwards 404B evidence.
Well, this is my question.
Right.
Does that exist?
Which, by the way, 404B's whole purpose of existing in every state in America and in the federal system is exactly to avoid this kind of prejudicial leap of because somebody did something once,
Oh, yeah, arugula. Ugh.
they must have done it again. That's the whole reason we have 404B, is to prevent that.
I acknowledge that. I imagine you would acknowledge as well the numerous exceptions and the lengthy or the deep body of case law regarding exceptions to the general law or to propensity evidence. And so here, when Mr. Bloodworth makes references to modus operandi, he's arguing to some of those exceptions.
Right. Well,
In your view, does 404B work backwards as well?
I don't know, because arugula tastes so nasty, I assume it's probably good for you, so I eat it. But yeah, that shit is so nasty.
exceptions?
right. Well,
In your view, does 404B work backwards as well, or does it only work prospectively?
it only works prospectively, in my opinion. But the analogy as to why this is such damaging and risky analysis can be found in that rule, baked into that rule that our legislatures and our Supreme Court recognize that that's very, very dangerous to base the prosecution on somebody, well, somebody used drugs once before in their life, they're probably guilty this time. That's the whole thing we're trying to avoid in our system. And that's the whole basis for their argument on the attempt. That's the entire basis, because they know they don't have proof. They don't have medical proof. We heard
It's just a lot of coincidences that are just lining up.
testimony about allergies. We heard about all of that. So, I mean, there's innocent explanations for everything that happened on the 14th, every single thing. So that doesn't lead to a reasonable belief. They are 100% relying on an action and conformity argument.
I don't think we heard the admissible testimony of allergies, but I take your point.
I'm sorry. I'm trying really hard
That's
to
okay.
separate it in my brain.
Yeah, because the balsamic vinegar definitely helps balance out the arugula. Yeah, if I can add it with all that stuff, arugula's okay. Like, but if you eat arugula by itself, or if they put a shit ton of arugula in a salad and all you taste is arugula, it's like.
Testimony of allergies, but I take your point.
I'm sorry. I'm trying really hard
That's
to
okay.
separate it in my brain.
I understand.
I actually think it's included in the, I believe it's included in some of the exhibits, but we'll just leave it alone just in case I'm wrong about that. I can check that while he's back up. But having said all of that, you know, the distribution charge that's connected to the attempt charge, if the attempt charge doesn't have probable cause, the distribution charge doesn't have probable
I
cause.
agree.
They both have to go.
May I ask you about the consciousness of guilt argument that the state makes?
Yes.
Which I understand to be my words, not the state's. Why is she lying in her text message to her best friend in June about what happened on the 14th?
I think the only thing she got wrong was breakfast for lunch.
Well, I think her location about her being home all day is one of the things they lean on. We were working from home that day.
I mean, that's easily provable. So it's not like when she's talking to her friend, she's trying to remember the day back, you know, a few months later. And she got part of it right, I mean, and part of it wrong. And I just don't know if it's just, I mean, how do we know that, what purpose would that be? How would that serve as a lie?
Well, the argument is that she's hiding the fact that she was with another person besides her husband on that day.
Okay, that's a good reason to lie, because you're with your boyfriend.
But she didn't even think of the judge thought of that. Oh my goodness. She obviously was lying to her best friend because she was trying to establish like a different alibi. Like, oh yeah, I was with him the entire time. We were together. I wasn't with my lover, the paramour.
And you don't want to admit you're with your boyfriend.
Right.
I mean, that's not conscious of guilt of killing your husband. That's not wanting to tell people you were hanging out with your boyfriend.
Okay. That's one credible inference, right?
Yes.
All right. Would you say that it's not a credible inference that the reason she's lying to her friend is because she had the scheme to be not present when
She admitted she was present with him, and she was. She brought him breakfast.
Okay.
So that's true. That inculpates her more than exculpates her.
But all day. She said
That's
she
the
was with him all
opposite
day.
of covering herself. She's putting herself in the house with him on the day that they're claiming he was attempted to be poisoned. That's a statement against interest,
Okay.
in my opinion. Okay. So I don't really need to argue the distribution. You get that. All right. So the only other things that we have on the fraud type arguments, I do think that the state never established jurisdiction or venue for any of those counts. I don't believe we've heard any proof about why this court has jurisdiction over these acts. They did not establish where they occurred.
Why isn't there a reasonable inference that Kouri Richins was making these applications and forming these schemes from Summit County?
And they have to show that. You can't just out of whole cloth make that up. There's no evidence that occurred.
Well, the standard of proof is the same for every element of the crime, right?
But
So
there's no
supporting
evidence that was submitted.
She lives here, her business was based here. I think there's a basis for reasonable belief that she was initiating these contacts, forming these schemes from Summit County.
Well, I just want to make the record.
Okay.
I don't believe they've established jurisdiction or venue on any of those counts. Furthermore, on the, I don't see why the two insurance fraud counts don't merge here.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm seeing several merger issues in this
Yes.
information, but merger is a fact issue that's handled after conviction. Am I right about that? Not at a preliminary hearing.
Not after conviction, before, you said after conviction, you meant after.
Is it before
charge.
submitting it to the jury or after?
Merger?
Yeah.
I always do it as a pretrial motion, but
Okay.
I may be wrong, maybe too, you're wrong.
I don't think it gets considered though at a preliminary hearing as a matter of law.
Well, I think if you determine at a preliminary hearing that two counts are actually one act, that you cannot push forward one of them, absolutely, I think you can do that.
Do you have a
But,
citation for that? I thought it was the opposite at a preliminary hearing.
well, I think you would just argue that they can't make two separate counts, so there's not sufficient reason to believe that a second crime is committed because it's all one. So that's your finding, that it's a reason, you can't reasonably believe the second crime is committed because it's just one crime. Because the scheme swallows the allegation of the filling out of the application. I mean, it swallows it. So,
I'll take a look at this.
yeah. And then I think on the rest, we would just submit on the other counts, Your Honor.
All right, so let's just be clear. To the extent that merger needs to be considered as part of the probable cause determination, that's going to mean that 1 and 3 merge, right?
Yes.
2 and 4 merge.
No, not 1 and 3. Attempted murder is on a separate day. It wouldn't.
1 and 3, 2 and 4.
I'm sorry, let me look at what 1 and 3 is. I'm getting my numbers mixed up.
So the distribution counts merge into the ag murder and ag attempt, right?
No, those would be two separate crimes.
Tell me why. You can't
Because
commit them without doing the distribution, right?
Right. I think they don't merge though. They're separate crimes. Like distribution is a separate offense than the attempted murder.
Okay.
So they wouldn't
then why
merge.
isn't, on the one hand, forging a signature and on the other hand, making a false statement when trying to collect on the claim? Why aren't those two separate crimes? What is the merger
Because
you're
they're
arguing for?
the two insurance fraud charges, because that is the same offense. Insurance fraud is not two separate offenses. And what they did is they said she created a scheme to wrongfully get insurance fraud. And part of that scheme was she signed the application and they just charged insurance fraud twice. I'm not talking about the forgery, I'm talking about the two insurance fraud charges. I think
Okay.
they merged.
All right. And just to be clear, you think they merge because it is the same fruit of the criminal conduct? That is, there was only one policy.
Right. That's correct.
Okay, I understand.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just have 1 minute before I sit?
Of course.
Just one more thing here. And I guess maybe the last thing I would say too is there's so many reasons that Mr. Richins could have not felt well that day and taken a nap. And to get over the hump of saying you're going to stand trial for attempted aggravated murder, which is about the next to most serious charge you can ever be charged with, because he went to take a nap, is pushing it, Your Honor. We're just asking that the court exercise your gatekeeping function. Let's remove that from the confusion it will cause the jury.
I can't wait until he makes his ruling and we hear from him.
The prejudice it will cause the jury, the complete lack of foundation. We're asking that the court take the rarest of steps and say this one will not go forward, and we submit on that.
Okay, I understand your position. Thank you. Mr. Blow.
I think the court's on lunch break right now. No, let's see. How long's their lunch break? 19 to... What's over here? Oh, God, they're on a lunch break.
Your Honor, real quick on just the murder issue, it's two different policies.
I just remember Kouri assaulted her husband's sister after... Oh, dude. Yeah, so, well, multiple things. So I think it was it the day after he died? It was shortly after he died, where the sister came over to gain access to the safe, and then Kouri punched her in the face. But yes, Kouri was very pissed when she found out that the husband changed it. So the sister had control of his estate, I think, if he were to pass.
Count 7 relates to the $250,000 two-stage policy. Count 8, I think, relates to the $100,000 policy.
That's not the way it is charged. I think that is, you're going to need to amend the information if you want to do that. And frankly, I don't think there's any allegation of fraud, or there's any, tell me why there's any reasonable belief regarding fraud related to the $250,000 policy.
Fraud in the claim, saying that I don't know why Eric Richins.
That's not what she said with respect to the $250,000 claim. That was only with respect to the $100,000 claim. It's two separate diaries. This is why I'm asking.
Your Honor, I think
There were 8.
The temperatures got back in the 90s. I don't like that. Dude, it's been so hot in LA. I don't know. It's been hot this year. Usually when we get up to 90s and 100s, it's only for about like a couple days, and then it goes back to like good weather. And then maybe it'll go back to like 90s and 100s or something. But we've been having just straight 90s weather for like weeks. I hate it. It's too hot.
Out at different times.
sure, in the one diary, though, they discuss both the policies.
I don't think that's true. You can show me, but I looked at them carefully yesterday. They are separate diaries regarding separate policies.
Let me ask,
Oh God, the diary entries. Please let us have access to the diary entries.
let me ask you this, right? Is this an issue you're considering, and so I can show it to you, but I don't know that it's a...
I understood you to be saying count 7 is based upon statements made during the process of collecting the proceeds in June. Count 8 is the scheme to get the policy with intent to kill Eric Richins to collect them.
So this one is the call 2022 policy. This is the call 2017 policy, which there's 250, 100. There's the scheme. Yes.
Are you referring to the statement, Mr. Burmester, of no known drugs, occasional cannabis use?
No, that
Oh, that came out of medical records.
Your Honor, it's Exhibit 18, page 1. It's the last note.
I see what you're referring to. So this is 18.
You know what? Oh, it's probably because she didn't think she was going to be caught. That's probably why. She probably thought that she was in the clear. Remember when we read her emails between her and the detectives? And I felt like I was reading XOXO Gossip Girl. It was like all these like emojis, and there's like LOLs, and I'm like, what am I reading here?
3.
Hi, Palermo.
Hold on a second. Let's get to the bottom of this. For this clarification, is with respect to the $250,000 policy. Got it. Thank you for that clarification.
Your Honor, regarding the 404B discussion, the purpose of admitting the evidence is further to many of the exceptions, propensity, intent, preparation, lack of accident, nearly all of them.
Hey, Leah. Kouri was trying to have the safe opened. Oh, was that the chain of events? Okay, I think I remember that. Yes. Kouri was trying to have the safe open. Eric's sister came over. Eric's sister got mad because Kouri was trying to get into the safe. Okay, yes, I think that's what happened. And I think the sister does have access to the safe, right? Oh, boy.
404B just relates to whether or not the defendant acts in conformity with her character, whether that's prospectively or retrospectively is irrelevant. The most of the defense's argument against bind over the attempted homicide count.
Okay, I'm gonna boost him because sometimes he speaks a little bit low.
The court kind of noted a lot of that goes to Kouri. A lot of that was arguing countervailing evidence. As the court is well aware, the standard today is notwithstanding countervailing evidence, whether that's countervailing evidence of how quickly our Richins eats his eggs, or whether he was shot beforehand or afterhand.
How quickly he eats his eggs. Okay, let's talk about the eggs.
It's countervailing evidence. It does not apply to the court's analysis today. Part of that countervailing evidence, I find it ironic that the counsel argued we hadn't heard one piece of evidence from her.
Oh, he's very soft-spoken too. I wish you could just yank that microphone, just pull it up towards his mouth. He's very soft-spoken. It's really hard to hear him. Hi there. I'm new here, and this is the first time I've joined you for a live. But thanks for joining us. I was going to do a whole different topic this week, but since the Kouri Richins preliminary hearing is now available for us to watch, I thought they weren't going to live stream this, but no, we're doing this instead. But I have had a lot of stuff that I wanted to cover with Sarah Boone stuff.
What questions does the court have?
I understand the state's position. I understand you to be saying conduct in March is evidence of other acts admissible to prove an MO. I understand the state's position.
And the lessons learned, I think, is very important.
Sure.
We've had some discussion with the defense counsel also as it relates to the standards at issue for the probable cause determination. And I think the court has sufficient evidence when viewed in the light most favorable to the state, when giving the state
And what's bad is there's no subtitles. I don't know why there's no subtitles.
all the reasonable inferences, notwithstanding the countervailing evidence, to find probable cause here even without the 404B part. The 404B part helps, certainly. But I don't even think it's necessary for the court to get to a probable cause determination. And, Schmidt, in discussing probable cause, references that probable cause in a preliminary hearing is the same as probable cause for an arrest warrant. And if the state were to set forth all the evidence it has put, referenced in its brief, argued here today, and charge an attempted murder, and ask for an arrest warrant on the information.
Or a search warrant.
Or a search warrant.
Right.
And if the state submitted it to 100 judges in Utah, 100 of them would issue that warrant.
Check to speculation.
It's an argument. Overruled. I understand the state's point. Okay. It is 11:29. We're going to come back at 11:50. Oh, is Nestor? My apologies.
Very quickly, I checked the ME report. It did reference the fact he was positive for COVID, but
Okay.
it did not talk about allergies in the ME report. That's where I thought it might be. But I'll keep looking and see if I can find it. But I do know that he did test positive for COVID.
Understood. Thank you. 11:50. Court's in recess. Thank you.
Okay, so while they are in recess and we wait for them, let's hop over to... Yes, the judge for Sarah Boone is perfect. Perfect. Just a perfect person to deal with a person like Sarah Boone. Let's do... We'll wait for... Do day one.
It was a Google Voice number. Okay. So, can you just describe what a Google?
Okay, so this is the the forensics guy. This is where I left off. And I'm gonna have this one. I'll put this guy over here. Hold on. Come here. I think the court should be back from recess in about 20 minutes. Okay, let's watch this. We have captions for this one. Yay!
All right, counsel, let's go back on the record. We're back on the record in 231-500-139. Mr. Bloodworth, anything before we continue with the state's case?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor?
No, that's right.
Okay. The state's next witness, please.
Your Honor, the state calls Christopher Country.
calls who now? Oh my gosh, I can't hear.
Okay, pretty sweet.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, subject to the pleas and penalties of perjury?
Thank you.
Sir, can you please tell us your name?
Chris Kouri.
The common spelling, the last name?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kouri, what can you briefly tell us your background?
Yes, I'm a 23-year law enforcement veteran. The last 11 years of which was spent with the Salt Lake City Police Department Homicide Squad and the Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office Homicide Team, where I was an investigator there.
And did you retire from law enforcement?
I did at the end of 2022. I retired.
What have you been doing since then?
I started an investigations firm.
And what's the nature of the investigations that you do?
So we do investigations, training, and consulting work. So regular investigations for criminal and civil offenses, training for attorneys and investigators related to various subject matters. And then I also do some consulting work in criminal and civil cases as well.
Do you have any education, training, or experience with forensic digital evidence?
I do.
Can you briefly describe that for the court?
Yeah, so formal training. I have a 40-hour certification from the ZX Tracks. It's a 40-hour training course called Detailed Record
I'm going to skip through this a little bit.
Tracks operator and a Cellbrite physical analyzer certified.
So bright.
It's extraction, it's device extraction hardware.
Have you been retained by the state in this case?
I have.
In what role?
As an investigative consultant and to analyze digital forensics data.
And have you analyzed and reviewed digital extractions of cell phones in this case?
Yes, I have.
I want to talk to you about a few phone numbers and just to identify phone numbers of different cell numbers or cell phones you have analyzed in this case. Do you recognize the phone number 435-671-1987?
I do.
Whose phone number is or was that?
That was the primary cell phone for the defendant.
You get kind of quiet again. Can you pull that right phone?
Oh, primary cell phone. Okay, hold on a second. Did she have a burner phone?
It's and the phone. There you go.
Normally, that's not an issue.
There. Can you just repeat that answer?
Yeah, that's the primary phone number for the defendant.
When you say primary, does that mean that there were other phone numbers that the defendant used?
Yes.
And do you recall what those numbers were?
Yes, there's two other numbers that we're aware of. One ends in 1152, and the other ends in 9592.
And when you say that the 1987 was the primary phone, what leads you to believe that was her primary phone?
In this context, it's the phone that the defendant utilized for her normal, everyday business, communications with most friends, her business, that type of thing.
And the other numbers, let's talk about the 1152. What kind of device was that associated with?
That was associated with her 1987 device, but it was a number being utilized on that device. It was a Google Voice number.
Okay. So can you just describe what a Google Voice number is and how it can be used on a cell phone?
Sure. It's basically a number that you create through Google Voice services. And
Yes, especially if you're selling things. Don't give people your real phone number. Just use a Google Voice number.
you can use it just like a normal cell phone. You can make calls, receive text, that type of thing. It's utilized through Google Voice app.
Now the 9592 number, was there a device that was associated with?
Yes.
What was that?
It's referred to in evidence as a blue phone, but it's an iPhone that was obtained by the defendant after her original phone was seized by police in April of 2022.
Oh, okay.
So was that phone activated roughly at the same time?
Yes.
Now speaking specifically to the device that the 1987 number was associated with, did you observe a forensic extraction of that phone?
Okay, that makes sense now. No, okay, so it's not two other burner phones. What happened was she had a primary phone number, or she had a primary phone that got seized by the police. She got it. So she got another iPhone, and with that iPhone, she also activated a Google Voice number. So that iPhone has its own cell phone number, and then you also have an account for a Google Voice number. So that's why they said two other numbers. Okay, all right.
Yes.
And did you analyze that extraction?
I did.
Did you notice any information or data deleted from that phone between January and mid-March of 2022?
Yes.
And can you describe what types of data have been deleted off that phone?
A lot of data. Primarily and most relevant to the investigations in this case, the call logs, texts, web history, and web search.
So when you say that the texts have been deleted, does that mean the entire text threads between different parties?
Yes.
And was it everybody?
Wow, I feel like Kouri Richins just checks the. She has all the check boxes for what dumb criminals do. Because I forgot about the search histories that she had. She had the search histories about. It was like, how long does it take to get money after your spouse dies or something? Prisons for rich people. I remember she had like a bunch of search histories, or like, oh, okay, she's also a search history killer. Got it. Hi, Mariah. How are you doing today? Hello, hello.
In that time frame, or were there specific people?
Pretty much everybody.
Now, you mentioned that web history had been deleted.
Yes.
And was there a specific date that prior to which that web history had been deleted?
Yeah, so there on that phone, the web history for that device, that primary device, was basically ended. It picked back up on March 10th of 2022, but prior to that, all of it was gone.
The deletions that you observed on that extraction, can you say how those deletions were made?
No. Like, I would presume it was completed like most deletions are completed on a phone, which is manual deletion. But there's no indication in the software of, any other means of that, whether it was active or remote or anything like that.
Okay. The data's just not there.
It's just not there.
I want to talk to you about a
What if you did incognito browsing? Would law enforcement still be able to pull that up?
person came up during this
What's that noise? Oh gosh. Sorry, that was a long crime.
investigation by the name of Josh Grossman. Did you associate a phone number with a device belonging to him?
Yes.
Do you recall what that number was?
The last four is 1260.
And a witness by the name of Carmen Lauber, did you identify numbers belonging to devices that were associated with her?
Yes.
And was there a primary number that was associated with her device?
Yes, and I believe the last four of that was 6127.
Same question for a Robert Crozier. Do you recall a number for him?
Yeah, Indian 0540.
And finally, you're almost done with this test. Mr. Richins' phone number. Do you recall his phone number associated with his?
The last four of 9317 for Mr. Richins.
Thank you.
That passed.
Right in the back. I want to talk to you about the defendant's communications with Carmen Lauber. Between the time period, well, let me ask this first. Were you able to determine by other means, besides the defendant's phone, whether there were communications between those two?
Yes.
And specifically for the time period of roughly January 1st, 2022 and March 15th, 2022?
Yes.
And where were you able to see evidence of those communications?
Through the call detail records.
Who's call detail record?
I primarily focused on the defendants, but also the slaughters as well.
And what does a call detail record tell you?
A call detail record is exactly what it sounds like. It's a detail of calls recorded through a carrier. It will tell us, tell an investigator or anybody looking at the record when a call or text was made or received, the duration of that call, and potentially location information related to that account as well, or that device as well.
And who stores that information?
The carrier.
So that's separate from the data that's extracted from the phone, right?
Correct.
So if data were deleted off of a phone, would that still be available through the carrier?
The communication, the timestamps and the direction of the communications would, yes.
I wonder when did she? Oh God! Because here's the thing. What else? I think she was speaking with law enforcement for about a year. Because I don't know if she lured up during that first year. Did she? I wonder when she got Sky Lazaro as her attorney. Because I think she probably self-snitched by being in open communications with law enforcement, which is, well, good luck with that.
What about location data?
Yes, potentially.
What you say potentially? What would cause it not to be available?
Time, quite frankly, is usually the inhibitor there. But most carriers retain call detail records for a year to 2 years with location history. It could also be that a carrier does not report location data for, say, for instance, text messaging. Some carriers do, some carriers don't.
Specifically, the carrier for the defendant's phone, was location data available for the call detail records that you analyzed?
At the time the records were sought, no.
Did you know why that was?
Time. Yeah, where Verizon retains location information within call detail records for 1 year.
Hi, Sister B. How are you doing today? So we're in a preliminary hearing right now for Kouri Richins. Kouri Richins is the woman who's accused of poisoning her husband, Eric Richins, with 5 times the lethal dosage of fentanyl. They believe that she served it to him in a Moscow meal or maybe some sort of alcoholic beverage. I think maybe they think she gave it to him in like a lemon shot or something. Not really quite sure. So now the crazy thing about her is that she wasn't arrested until a year later. During that year, she wrote a children's book in order to help her 3 young children grieve about their father. And she went up there, did a little press tour thing, went on like a TV news show and was like, yeah, you know, I made a book, you know, so my husband, he died. And like, yeah, my kids are really sad. We're grieving him right now. And then she gets arrested, like, I think like a couple of weeks after that interview. So we're at the preliminary hearing right now, but there's a lot of stuff that happened with Kouri Richins. I have a Kouri Richins playlist, which definitely check it out because this woman she wowed, okay? Everything that you would expect a dumb criminal to do, I feel like she just checks the boxes for all of it. But a lot of stuff happened with her in the background scenes, but fast forward to today, we're doing a preliminary hearing where the judge is going to determine whether or not the state has enough evidence to go to trial. So at this point, the judge has already made a determination that they're going to go to trial. But the part that we were watching earlier is whether or not the attempted murder is going to also be one of those things they're going to consider a trial as well. Because she allegedly murdered the husband, but a couple weeks before that murder took place, it seems like she may have attempted to poison his sandwich. And he felt really sick, but then he didn't die at that point because, you know, it wasn't enough to make him super sick. But yeah, lots of stuff happening with Kouri Richins. So much stuff. She is just as wild as, I don't know. She's just fucking wild. Okay. It's a lady on this channel, an attorney. Hi, is it Asaya? How are you doing today? Or Asia? Hello, how are you doing today? No, not an attorney, anything like that. I'm just like you guys. We just watch a lot of true crime stuff and we like reading court documents and we like attending these court hearings.
I would like to turn your attention, if I can grab a binder of the exhibits that have been pre-admitted here, to exhibit 33.
So right now we're doing the preliminary hearing. This is actually from the day before. Because the court's on lunch break right now, I decided to go back to the day before where the state is, they have their witnesses that are going to go up there and they're going to prove that like, okay, here, we have enough. So let's take this to fucking trial, which I can't wait for the trial. I cannot wait for the trial because the state in the preliminary hearing, they don't have to expose all the cards that they have in their hands, right? I think they only called 3 witnesses. But once we get to trial, we're going to get everything. All the text messages, the phone calls, the logs, deleted search histories. Oh my God, it's going to be so crazy. Oh, Asia. Oh, I love the spelling of that. Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, you can just call me Kouri. Yeah, it works. Oh, it's already going to go to the trial. The judge has already deemed that the murder charge, that's definitely going to make it to trial. What we were focusing on earlier was whether or not the attempted murder, if that's going to be a consideration for trial. I feel like it's got to be. The dots were connecting for me.
And an individual named Nicole Cummings.
Do you know who Nicole Cummings is relative to this investigation?
I do.
Who is that?
I don't know when the trial date is. I don't know if he already announced that earlier. Not too sure. I hope it's soon.
My understanding is a friend of Carmen Lauber, in which the friend is the one in which Carmen received a second phone number for Mr. Cruzier.
I see. Now, turning over to 34, State's Exhibit 34. Do you recognize that document?
I do. 34? Yes.
Yes. And what is that?
Also, I hope the audio will be way better than this because this audio it's not as bad as, what did we watch recently where the audio was like super, super bad? This is like still listenable, but because I can hear so much white noise, it reminds me of my air purifier machine that I purposely put on at night to blast a bunch of white noise because it makes me fall asleep. So hearing white noise, I'm like, oh God, I'm getting triggered to get sleepy. Yes, I wanted to cover, oh God, the Donna Adelson would be crazy too. We have a lot of trials that we're looking forward to. Alexa Treviso. Whew. I want to know what's going to happen with that because right now that's all been placed on hold for the time being. But I think Alexa Treviso one was one that I was definitely looking forward to for trial stuff. Yeah, Donald Adelson's next month. We have Donald Adelson next month, and then October. Who was October again? Oh gosh. Oh, I think Delphi Murders is October. I think it's set for October so far. And then Alexa Treviso is up in the air. We don't know. Sarah Boone is also in October as well. Mm-hmm.
This is a phone extraction record.
And the bottom input in that record, is there any number there that is relevant to this investigation?
Yes.
What is that?
This is a message, or this is a contact in a device for a number identified as Mr. Crozier's number, the ending in 0540.
And is the name of that contact Robbie-Nick?
Yes.
Is that the same Nicole that we spoke of a moment ago?
Yes.
Now, I don't necessarily need to go through those, but I'm referring now to State's Exhibit 35. In Ms. Lauber's call detailed records for her device, do you see communications between her and Crozier on February 10th of 2022?
Yes.
And you recall approximately when those began?
It was in the evening. I don't recall the exact time on the 10th.
You see calls between them on February 11th as well?
Yes.
Also on February 11th, through Ms. Lauber's call detailed records and the defendants, did you observe any text messages between them on that day?
Yes.
You recall how many?
About 30, I believe.
And were there any text messages the next day, February 12th of 2022, between Ms. Lauber and the defendant?
Yes.
And you recall when those occurred?
I don't. I want to say midday, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. But those would be contained in State's Exhibit 35, the call detailed records?
Yes.
And speaking of these, the call detailed records, are these in Mountain Daylight Time or Mountain Standard Time?
These are UTC time.
Okay. And UTC is what time?
It's Greenwich Mean Time. It's basically zero. It's a method for everybody to basically stay on the same time zone, as odd as that sounds. Basically, you just add or subtract your time zone from UTC to get local time.
So if these are in February of 2022, what subtraction would have to be made to find the local time?
7 hours. So during daylight savings, when we fall back in November.
Yeah, John O'Keefe's brother filed a wrongful death suit. Yeah. So we'll see what happens then.
We go to -7, and then we spring forward in March usually, where we're -6.
Thank you. Moving ahead to...
Oh, yeah, I wanted to listen to Robert Tell's testimony. I think it's always very interesting when the accused goes up there and testifies. But I haven't, I only know the general gist of the Robert Tell's trial. But yeah, I kind of want to watch his testimony.
The February 14, 2022 call detailed records. Did you observe any? Sorry, did you observe any text exchange between the defendant and Ms. Lauber on that day?
On February 14th? Yes, sir.
You recall approximately how many?
I don't. Not off the top of my head. It's several.
More than a dozen?
Yes. I want to say 30 again. Seems right.
I want to turn your attention now to State's Exhibit 43.
Kind of sucks when we can't see the exhibits on like a big screen.
Well, and before we go on to there, I just want to clarify, when you see this call detailed record, you're not seeing the content of any of those messages, correct?
Correct. Only that the message was completed, sent and received.
Okay. But when you do a forensic extraction of a device, if those the content of those texts are still on the phone, can you see the content at that time?
Yes.
On February 26th of 2022, do you see communications between Ms. Lauber and the defendant on that day?
Yes.
Do you recall when they started communicating?
It was in the evening. I want to, if I recall, around 5 p.m., 4 or 5 p.m. on the 26th.
And you recall when they stopped?
About 10:30 that night.
From those call detail records, specifically from Ms. Lauber's, were you able to see where she traveled that day?
Yes.
And was she at or near a Maverick and Draper that day?
She was.
And how are you able to tell that from the call detail record?
So within that call detail record, AT&T is Ms. Lauber's provider. AT&T does provide location data for SMS messaging. So we're able to determine what tower is being utilized.
Tell smacks his nose before talking, so what? Watch his testimony and then prosecution go after him afterwards. Great. The rest of the trial was boring, but he's really hard to look at. You cannot look away. Wasn't he, what was he elected as? Because I saw that after when the journalist wrote that article about him, he also like lost an election. What was the election for?
And the Ms. Lauber's device made or received text messages as well as calls. So we put it into a mapping software and are able to determine which tower was servicing the device during any given point in time.
So it's the location of the tower that phone is connected with, right?
Yes.
And down in the Salt Lake Valley near Draper, are you able to see multiple towers that I mean, fair to say,
The urban area, the more dense.
where that phone is
I'm just going to jump around a little bit. Okay, let's talk about the context of these messages.
Was she there on any other dates besides that 26th?
Yes.
What dates were those?
February 11th, 2022, and March 9th, 2022.
Did you observe her phone being tracked in that area on any other time in the record too?
No.
I was for a county admin. He rambled on for 3 hours in the stand and was complete lies. And the prosecution calls him out at every single one and ends with a banger. Nice.
Were you able to track her movements from Summit County to Draper and back?
Yes.
And is that, again, just through the tracking the towers that she's being off of?
Yes, so the tower utilization, yes.
And we talked a little bit about Midway. Does the precise location become more difficult when she's in a more rural area?
In this case, yes.
And why is that?
Oh, okay. I think he's just kind of like he's just establishing location, devices, messages. Because I want to know about the context. I can't see the context because they're not showing the exhibits on the screen. I wonder if it's the next expert that gets into the context of everything. Because I feel like we're talking about dates, we're talking about navigations, we're talking about time, but we're not talking about... see this.
And did the defendant indicate why she was sending this to him?
Yes.
Why is that?
She said she was on her way to see him. He asked if it was about an hour, if she was about an hour away, and she said yes and sent him the screenshot to verify her ETA.
When those began?
For the 1152 number, which is the first one I'm aware of, it began having basically a digital trail on that phone beginning in November of 2021.
And what was the volume of text calls, anything of that nature, up until March of 2022?
The volume varied depending on the day, but it was pretty much daily communication between the two during that time frame.
And are these phone calls and text messages?
Mostly text, but yes, some phone calls.
And have a number of those texts been recovered from Mr. Grossman's phone?
Yes.
And if I could just have you just thumb through exhibits 29 and 30.
And exhibits 29 and 30. Okay, how about here?
Yes.
And a little bit later in time, March 20th and April 9th.
Correct. Yes.
So it's fair to say around the time that Mr. Richins passed away, there were ongoing messages between the defendant and Mr. Grossman.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you now about the extraction from the defendant's phone relative to the morning of...
Wait, I wonder if she ever went public with her lover, because at that point, she had like a whole year where she was technically free. So I wonder, was she finally bringing around the lover to her like friends and family like a couple months after Eric passed away? Maybe like 6 months or 9 months? Or was she still keeping it a secret?
March 4th, 2022. We discussed this at the detention hearing, correct?
Yes, we did.
And at that time, you were relatively new to this case.
I was, yes.
Have you had a chance to analyze further the data on the defendant's phone regarding that date?
Yes.
I asked you at that time about movement on the phone at approximately 3:08 a.m. Do you recall that?
I do, yes.
Are you able to say at this time whether that was the phone itself moving or a connected device moving?
It appears to be a connected device.
And when you say a connected device, what does that mean?
In this case, I believe it to be a smartwatch. It's a device connected to the, like, for instance, the defendant's cell phone that is tracking movement.
Oh God! So she's got so many devices that's tracking her movement. She got her cell phone. She got the the iWatch or whatever it is.
When was the defendant's phone first unlocked that morning?
Right before 3:07 a.m.
And this movement activity, when did that take place?
3:08.
Do you recall how far the connected device moved?
I believe it was about 250 feet.
And was there a series of unlocks on that phone in the next 15 minutes?
Yes.
Was there additional movement
So I believe this is the night of the murder.
around 3:21?
Yes.
How many lawyers does she have? She has two public defenders.
You recall approximately how much?
I believe it was around 140 feet, 143 feet.
Do you see a 911 call on that device?
Yes.
What time did that happen?
Just after 3:21 a.m.
You recall that approximately 140 feet movement was made before or after the 911 call? So in the
She used to have Sky Lazaro, the big shot defense attorney, but it seems like she was unable to afford having her represent her anymore. So public defender it is. But no, I think the public defenders seem okay so far from what I've seen from today.
about that 15-minute time frame, the connected device moved about 370 feet. Correct. Verify your step. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Your name is.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Afternoon.
Afternoon, Court.
Doing great. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Oh, Asia was saying to watch Robert Tell's testimony. I think it happened, was it yesterday or was it last week?
All right. Let's talk about, go to State's Exhibit 45, please. Let me know when you're there.
Okay, I'm there.
Mr. Hill had you review Exhibits 44, 45, and 46. You recall that?
I do.
And he asked you whether that indicated there was communication
Oh yeah, how's Wade Wilson's sentencing? Did he speak at all?
between Ms. Richins as well as Mr. Grossman. Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay, so let's go to 44. And on 44, how is one of the senders or the parties identified as?
On 44,
Yes.
we have Mr. Grossman.
Perfect.
Yes.
And then let's go to 45, and how is one of the parties identified as? That, where it says under party, first number 1, it says from, and then it has owner.
Yes, 9317 is Mr. Richins' number.
So that is not Mr. Grossman. Correct. Okay. So just to clarify, going back to Mr. Hill's questions, your testimony that what was included in Exhibit 45 was Mr. Grossman, that was incorrect.
Yes, I was mistaken.
Okay. You indicated that you were asked about the usage on the phone, about whether you indicated it was normal tracking for that device. Do you recall that? In Mr. Richins' phone. Just now.
About normal usage. Sorry for yes.
Phone calls?
Yes.
Text messages?
Yes.
Okay. Interestingly, you said normal tracking for that device. I suspect you mean for that person.
It can be one and the same, yes.
The device doesn't do anything by itself.
Right, it has to be manipulated.
Correct.
Yes.
So when you say normal tracking for that device,
Yes.
you mean normal usage by the person who that device belonged to.
Typically, yes.
Okay. You have no way of knowing really what the normal usage is, unless you review everything, correct?
To the number, no.
Correct.
Yeah.
Perfect. On Ms. Richins' phone, you indicated that it was from everybody.
Yes. Pretty much, yes.
Was there a time frame for that?
Yes.
What was that?
January through March. About March 10th or so.
And that was for which phone?
It was for the 1987 number.
Perfect. Testimony. Have you been recertified since then?
I have not.
A Celebrite physical analyzer course as well?
Yes.
And when was that?
The same time, 2017.
Then a 40-hour cell phone analysis and mapping course.
Yes.
That one was
If anyone needs to watch the lunatic on the stand, the police have a video of him walking to the murder and leaving, and he drove in his own vehicle. It was so crazy to watch on the stand. Wait, is he the one that bought a cowboy hat? Or sorry, it was like a straw hat and a was it like a yellow vest or something like that?
was not through Celebrite, that was through Zetex and Trax. Is that what it was?
ZX is the company?
Correct.
Trax is the program, yes.
And so separate from Celebrite, but when was that?
The initial was, I believe, in 2013, and the subject matter expert class was in 2017.
And you're recertified in that?
No.
The Trax technology.
Yeah, was it an orange vest? Okay. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to jump around. What else did they talk about? What about the day of the murder? So this is all technical stuff right now, which I don't really want to get to until we get to the trial. More technical stuff. Maybe we'll just jump into the next expert. All right, downloading. Oh, morning of March 4th. Okay, what about this?
By a connected device. Yes. And you were very specific on the number. Okay?
Yes, more or less.
But you don't know how that number was calculated.
I don't know the internal calculation process that they
device is found.
You just read it.
Yes,
You read what was spit out.
correct.
You don't have the data, the raw data, correct?
Correct.
So everything you testify to is basically because you've read it.
Well, yes, and the extractions from the devices, but yes.
Correct. Just what was given to you.
Yes.
Wait, you happened to just be filming and then something just popped up in the sky? Aliens, hello?
Were there items that were deleted from Mr. Richins' phone?
From Mr. Richins' phone?
Or Eric's?
Not that I'm aware of.
But it could be.
Could be.
Alongside?
Alongside and, quite frankly, against.
On this case?
No. Well, with, yes, on this case,
Wait, on
yes.
this case.
Okay.
Things going over in our unit, so a lot of things go over my head.
There we go. Bryce, computer.
Okay.
Okay, so lots of technical stuff with this guy. He says there's a lot of stuff that was deleted from Kouri's phone. He went over Kouri's primary cell phone device, and then she had a second one that she purchased, and that one had a Google Voice number as well. Let's hop to this person instead.
Applications and the policy documents.
Ooh, okay, so she's really loud. Let's adjust her a little bit. Oh, it's just for all the insurance fraud stuff. Okay, let's see.
A-R-R-I-N-G-T-O-N.
And are you employed?
Yes. I'm a forensic accountant.
Do you work for a firm or have a firm?
I have a firm, KF Squared.
And how long have you practiced in this field?
Over 30 years.
Now, did you testify as an expert in this case at the detention hearing in June of last year?
Yes, I did.
What sort of documents did you review, if any, in preparation for today's testimony?
I reviewed financial documents that include bank account statements, real property documents that are recorded like trust deeds, warranty deeds, etc. I've also reviewed loan documents, which includes promissory notes, the applications, the documents that memorialize the terms of the loans. I've reviewed insurance documents, which are the applications and the policy documents. There's also a large body of email communication associated with different loan applications and insurance applications.
So, to be clear, that would be things like maybe someone submits an application and then there's some follow-up communication between a lender and a borrower?
That's right.
What bank accounts did you look at?
I have no idea. I don't know if they announced a trial date yet.
I'm sorry.
Let me see.
What banks or credit unions, other things, did you look at?
Primarily, there are a number of them, but primarily.
Oh, they said it 36 minutes ago. Oh, got it so far. April 28, 2025.
America First Credit Union, Penn Fed Credit Union, maybe Federal Credit Union, UCCU, which I believe is Utah Community Credit Union.
Okay, so let's look at the bank accounts from AFCU, from America First. Were there a number of those accounts associated with the defendant with them?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about, were there some associated with their children?
Yes.
Okay. Leaving those to the side, see, that's why I don't have water next to me. Let's look at the adults. What accounts, let's refer to them to the last four digits of those accounts. What ones did you look at?
Primarily, the K. Richins Realty account, which is 5677.
You sure it's 5677?
6577, sorry about that. Their joint, Eric and Mr. Richins and Ms. Richins had a joint account 2204. Ms. Richins had a personal account, which is 5244. And then the C&E Masonry account, which is 7664.
This 6577, the K. Richins Realty, did Eric Richins have access to that account that you can see?
Not that I'm aware. He was not a signer, and I don't see any transactions that indicate that he would have accessed that.
Can you generally conceptualize how 2204, that joint account, was used?
That appeared to be the account.
Oh, the prosecutor, his name is Brad Bloodworth. Bloodworth. Ooh, I like that last name. Bloodworth. Sounds like a vampire last name.
Where typical household expenses were paid. The mortgage on the house, the credit card payments, the kids' expenses, insurance payments, various things associated with the family.
Purchases at the grocery store?
Things like that, yes.
Are you, through this work you've done for the county, and let me ask this question, were you originally hired by the estate or someone else before being hired by that county?
Yes, it was.
Who hired you?
I was brought into the case to work on behalf of the estate of Eric Richins. And so I worked on that case, but then when I was hired by Summit County, I ceased my engagement.
So in part of your work, did you ever become familiar with a premarital agreement?
Yes.
I'd like to refer your attention to docket number 106.
Okay.
Did you,
Does anyone by chance know how long they think Donald Adelson's trial will be? How many days do you think?
in your work, did you examine this document?
Yes, I did.
And what is it?
This is the premarital agreement between Mr. Richins and Ms. Richins.
And I'd like to further direct your attention to section 2 of that document.
Okay.
In section 2, is there something relevant to today's inquiry?
Yes, this section states that the business C&D Masonry would retain its character as separate property belonging to the husband.
Even if funds were commingled,
That's correct.
personal and professional? But was there an exception to that?
Yes, if the husband should die prior to the wife, then his interest would transfer to her.
So what was Kay Richins Realty?
That is Ms. Richins' business, primarily in the real estate business.
Did she have other businesses that you were aware of?
Yes, she did.
Do you know when that business was formed?
Yes, in April of 2019.
I'd like you to take a look at State's Exhibit 19, please. What is that?
This is the Certificate of Organization of Kay Richins Realty, LLC.
Does it indicate when the company was formed?
It does on... Yes, it does.
Or what is the date?
April 26, 2019.
And does it also give an address for this business?
Yes, it does.
And what is that address?
282 Willow Court in Camas, Utah.
Is that in Summit County to the best of your knowledge?
It is in Summit County, yes.
Just generally speaking, how does this type of business work that Ms. Richins was?
She appears to me that she was a licensed real estate agent, so she did represent buyers and sellers, but primarily she was involved in fixing and
Too far away. Well, at least it doesn't clash with the other trials that we're waiting for. So let's see. Donna's is next month. Oh my god, wait, hers is coming in like very soon, actually, like 2-3 weeks. Ah! Oh my gosh. Okay, so Donna Adelson next month. And then Sarah Boone the month afterwards in October. I guess we don't have anything in November or December. January, we have Karen Reed again. And then February, there's a Lori Vallow one, but yeah. And then April, yeah, I guess it's like paced okay. I guess November and December might be a little bit quiet. Did they say 2 weeks? I don't know. I know they said jury selection would be 3 to 4 days for Adelson. Oh, really? Adelson trial prosecutors say they expect their case to take a week once the trial begins in September. Okay, so maybe prosecution is 1 week and the defense maybe like half a week.
flipping homes.
So she would buy it, fix it, then sell it? Is that what we're getting
That's
at?
correct, yes.
Thank you.
This began then in 2019.
That's right.
Were there other purchases or transactions predate 2019?
Yes,
And where did those take place?
those were in South Carolina.
So the market in 2019, do you have any idea what the market was like, the real estate market was like in 2019?
Yes, it was robust.
Meaning properties could come up for sale and be gone within a matter of days?
I think that's a fair statement, yes.
And what were the interest rates like? Conventional loan interest rates then versus
Fairly low. They were still very, very low at that time.
rough neighborhood average?
Well, depending on your loan, but 2 to 4 or 5%.
Safe to say that's what different today.
Safe to say, yes.
So in that business, it would seem to me that you would need to be able to act quickly to obtain properties before they're settling off the market.
I think that's a fair statement, yes.
So how do the practitioners of that type of business work? It would seem you'd need some capital somehow.
That's correct.
And what are the possible sources for capital?
A business in that field could have its own capital. It could borrow from financial institutions. They could borrow from friends or whatever, hard money lenders, or have investors.
Okay. So, what do you mean by hard money lenders?
Hard money lenders are, well, soft money lenders would be like traditional financial institutions where it's a conventional loan, there's a conventional loan application process, due diligence by that financial.
Yeah, they moved it because of the Jewish holiday. So I think that's why they set it to September 17th. I think initially it was supposed to be later, I think. And then they decided to move it up.
Institution or, and they're typically regulated by state and federal agencies. And then hard money loans are called that colloquially because they have more strict terms, the harder terms, usually higher interest rate, very definite zero tolerance default clause usually.
Okay, so I guess the advantage of a conventional loan would be lower interest rate. The disadvantage would be response time, just the due diligence required.
That would be, yes.
The others are more responsive in time, but have these more draconian clauses.
Yes.
Prior to the April 26, 2019 date, was there something else that you found that was important for our inquiry today?
Yes.
What was that?
The home equity line of credit that was taken out on the home.
On the family home, the marital home.
The home on Willow Court, where the family lived, yes.
Do you know whose name that, first of all, was there a mortgage on that home?
Yes.
Do you know whose name was on that mortgage?
The home was owned by Eric Richins, and the home equity loan that was taken out was also in the name of Eric Richins.
Could you give us a very brief description of what a home equity loan is?
It's a line of credit, typically, that is established. There's a loan application process. There's a line of credit that's established that someone could tap into the equity that they already own. So
you could make home improvements or whatever you wanted to do, I suppose.
A person could tap into it for any number of reasons.
I would not hold the Boone trial to any time. We don't know how out of control that one may go. Let's see. 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks as in... That's how long the trial's going to take, or they push it 2 weeks?
In this case, there was home equity line of credit for how much?
$250,000.
And when was that?
That was in March 2019.
And so does this in effect, is it secured by the home itself?
It is, yes.
So this is essentially the second mortgage.
Your Honor, I know this is an expert, but we're doing a lot of meetings, so I would just object and ask if we could maybe let the expert be the expert here and object.
I think it's just like foundation itself overruled, but if we can keep it moving, it's great.
Do you know if this was, there was any, in order to obtain this, I guess is where we need to look at this, in order to obtain this loan, a home equity line of credit, on a home owned by Eric Richins, how does that happen?
There's a loan application process, and in this instance, it was signed by Ms. Richins, referencing a power of attorney.
I'd like to direct your attention to States Exhibit 123, States Exhibit 124. Take 123 first.
Are you talking about the dockets?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Docket number 123.
Okay, yes, I got those.
Do you recognize those two documents?
Yes.
Is there a difference on the date it's signed by the
Why are we zooming in here? This is interesting.
reported author of it, I guess?
Yes.
But what's the difference in the date?
Docket 123 is signed and dated 5/8/13, and docket 124 is signed, dated 5/8/18.
During your investigation and examination,
Oh, the court is back. Maybe? Keep waiting? Okay, we'll keep
are you
waiting.
aware of whether those docket number 123 and 124 came under suspicion?
They were.
I'd like to direct your attention to States Exhibit, or docket number 127.
I don't have a 127. I do not have a 127. Wait, never mind. It's just in different order.
Yes,
Sorry.
it's out of order.
That's okay.
Totally my fault.
Okay.
You know what that is?
I do.
What is it?
This is the expert report by Matt Throckmorton.
And those, he examined 3 question documents, is that right?
That's right.
And 123 and 124, are they any of those question documents?
Those are 2 of the 3.
I'd like you to take a look at now. Lost control. I'm not sure she has states exhibits.
Go ahead.
Can you please just...
This is in payments.
Okay. When is the first withdrawn that home equity line of credit?
It's March 26, 2019 for $60,000.
When is the next withdrawal?
August 5th, 2019.
Could you describe the next couple of withdrawals on that?
Following that $2,100 in August, there are a series of withdrawals for the next few months.
Okay. In August, is there more than one or just the one?
There are several.
Does that strike you as important for today's
Yes.
purposes? Would you explain to the board what you draw from that?
Beginning in August of 2019, this is around this time is the first property that Ms. Richins purchased after obtaining her business license. It's a home in Heber City. As far as I know, that was her first home in Utah that she flipped.
We have States Exhibit 71.
Mr. Gross, are you offering state 70?
Yes, yes, I will be offering States 70 and 71 as summary charts.
Okay. Is there any objection?
No, sir.
Okay. 70 and 71 are admitted.
Could you read for the record the title of 71?
Encumbrance and Real Property Chronology Trust Deed Summary.
So what, does that help you state for the record what that first transaction was?
Hi, CMB. How are you doing today? How's it going? And this preliminary hearing is a little bit slow.
Where?
Yes. It's the 550 house. The first warranty deed involving Kouri Richins Realty was August 1st of 2019.
Now, I'd like to portray that in another way. Did you prepare a timeline bar chart?
Yes.
Does it take much the same information, just in a different way?
Different format, yes.
Would that be helpful for the testimony?
Yes.
State would offer States Exhibit 69, and we're just going to go for the first chart, which is the timeline.
Is there any objection?
No, sir.
States Exhibit 69 is admitted.
That's the whole PowerPoint? I'm sorry.
It is, but I've only laid foundation for the very first
Got
one.
it.
Is that the bar chart you were just referring to?
Yes.
And so, can you just explain to the judge how this chart works?
Sure. I think you've seen this before. The colors don't mean anything. They're just to distinguish one line from another. I've just got the years along the top and the months, and then going down the different properties just as some sort of an illustration to depict when properties were held at any particular time.
And then within each bar is the address of the property purchased?
Right. And so if you wanted to know what was held in June of 2021, you could draw a vertical line to see.
Thanks, friendly person. Yes, but we're wondering about Dono Adelson. Dono Adelson. Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure. Yeah, so Sarah Boone, 3 weeks. Dono Adelson, maybe 1 to 2 weeks. Maybe 2 weeks, depending on the
Properties were owned at that time.
Okay. So, any more purchases in 2019 by Kouri Richins Realty?
Not that I know of. There could be others, but this is what I have been able to compile.
How about in 2020?
2020, yes, there were others.
Okay. How many purchases by Kouri Richins Realty of property in 2020?
I think there were just the 5.
Is there one that stands out to you?
In 2020?
Yes.
Not particular. Well, the Franson Lane one toward the end of 2020, in October of 2020. The Franson Lane property in Oakland.
I see. Let's drill down into the Franson Lane. You said, when was that?
It was acquired in October of 2020.
Is it different from the previous 5, I guess, County 2019?
Yes.
In what ways was it different?
It was a more robust project, more ambitious project in amount. You know, it was. I think she acquired it for 1.3 million, and the others had been somewhere in the neighborhood of like $300,000 or $500,000.
Did she require outside money
Yes.
to make this investment?
Yes.
What sort of investors?
They were hard money lenders.
Do you know who they were?
Yes.
Who are they?
Sierra West Capital was the primary lender, which is this, as is the case on several of her properties. And then there were other investors who contributed the funds basically for the rehab.
Was there something else different in this application that you garnered from all the financial records?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
That's the way I roll. Okay. Was there something else that you found in reviewing all of the documents, not just the loan documents, that distinguished this purchase as opposed to the ones that have gone before that? Involving, all right, how about this? Do you know if C&E was involved in this project?
C&E was involved in this project.
Okay. And what did you discover about C&E's involvement?
After the acquisition of the Oakley property, Franz Lane property, C&E, there were several checks from C&E that were deposited to the K. Richins Realty account, and they specifically have a memo on them that tie them to this property. And so over the next, between October and when this property was sold in March of 21, there are a series of checks. I think there are 6 or 8 checks that are about $133,000 in it.
Was this property ever sold?
Yes, it was.
When?
In March of 2021.
Okay. What happened to the proceeds from that sale?
This was a property where the net proceeds were about $466,000, which came into the K. Richins Realty account, that 6577 account. And then from that, $217,000 was paid directly to C&E.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the court. They're still on break. How long have they been on break for? Oh my god, they've been on break for like an hour and a half. Wait, well, hold on a second. Oh wait, did the court just not come back? Wait, why am I in Wade Wilson's stream? Hold on. What happened to the other stream? I'm so confused. Wait a second. Are they done with day 2 of Kouri Richins? Did something happen? Did the stream just cut off? Okay. Guys, I don't know what happened. So, the stream for Kouri Richins ended. I guess it just ended? Are they coming back live? I don't know. Okay. It just ended. I don't know if they're just not coming back live or if something just happened and just cut off. And then it took us to the sentencing for Wade Wilson. Okay. Maybe that's it for the day. What a weird stream day. This one is a little bit of a snooze, so I don't know if we're going to continue with this one. I was hoping they would continue with day 2 of the preliminary hearing. All right, so what are we doing today, y'all? Well, it's 12:56. Let me think. Let's brainstorm. I think tomorrow we'll do what I was originally planning to do, which is Sarah Boone stuff. I think tomorrow we'll do a whole bunch of Sarah Boone stuff. Let's see. There's like some interviews that I wanted to go over with you guys, with her neighbors, with apartment manager. We'll listen to that together, and then more Sarah Boone drama with the attorneys. So the last time, I don't know if you guys watched my previous Sarah Boone video, but her attorneys have not been paid yet, and they want their money. They're battling with JAC right now because apparently you're supposed to get a flat fee of $15,000, but if something happens and you don't fully represent the client until, you know, when they go to court and everything that happens afterwards, it seems like you don't get that flat fee of $15,000. But these attorneys are like, no, we worked with Sarah Boone. We did this, we did that. We worked like over like hundreds of hours. So let us get paid. I wanted to cover that. I can't remember trial, but when it would end, they would pull the whole stream. So if you're behind, close out the stream. But I wasn't behind though. We were waiting for the court to come back, which is weird. I think what happened was they ended the stream and then they just pushed the stream to the Wade Wilson sentencing stuff. But yeah, what a weird day. Okay, so for Kouri Richins stuff, I mean, here's what we got so far. The judge has decided to move forward with the murder charge. I think he actually he decided to move forward of all 11 counts So Kouri Richins was charged with the actual murder, so the day of the murder. And then there was also the attempted murder that happened a couple weeks before with the sandwich. And then also all the financial charges on top of that. So a total of 11 counts total. I think that's all going to happen for trial. The trial date has been set for April 2025. And, you know, it does seem like a very long time, but it's okay. I think we have a lot of other cases happening in between then. So like I said, we do have Donna Adelson next month, Sarah Boone in October, the month afterwards. And then we have Karen Reed in January. Very surprised to hear that. And then, yeah, Kouri Richins. And then we're still waiting for Lexi Treviso. So maybe if something happens with Lexi Treviso, maybe Lexi Treviso can fill our November, December schedule. Or, you know, maybe her trial won't happen, which would anger a lot of people. For dealing with her, they deserve the double of that. So JAC said they have to split the $15,000 amongst all the court-appointed attorneys. And I'm pretty sure everyone's like, no, we want our $15,000. We don't want to split $15,000 with 5 other attorneys. Give us our $15,000. So I think tomorrow we'll do Sarah Boone's stream. Yeah, we'll do Sarah Boone's stream tomorrow. I'll have a scheduled stream. That way you guys know when we're going to go live tomorrow. Because I feel like I never do the scheduled stream. I don't know. I had an issue when I was doing the scheduled stream and it kind of annoyed me and I never did it ever again. But, you know, I see a lot of like the good streamers out there. They all do the scheduled stream so people know when they're about to go live. So I'll try to start utilizing it because I think it's good to give people a heads up. But, you know, if you guys are in my Discord, I always send a notification when I'm about to go live. I give you guys like a 5 minutes heads up. So join the Discord, feel free. But other than that, I think what I'll do today, I'll work on maybe Donna Adelson stuff. Yeah, I think I want to cover Donna Adelson stuff. I just uncovered like a crap load of information about the Stephen Stearns, Madeline Soto case, which is just so, I don't know, that shit just irritates the shit out of me. Her mom, Jen Soto, is so fucking annoying. I hate her. But I posted a bunch of stuff about that in my Discord because I was just getting really irritated. Super irritated with that. But yeah, I think we'll do Donna Adelson today. And then I'll have the video out. But other than that, I think that's it for today. I hope you guys have a good one. Thanks for joining me. For those of you guys who are on Twitch, I do want to do a horror game Twitch stream today because my sister and I were playing Outlast Trials yesterday, and that was really fun. So I'm going to see what her schedule is like. I think she has gym today, though, so we'll see what happens. I hate her, yes, and that's like an understatement. I'm so sorry, but like mothers like Jen Soto, parents like Jen Soto, they just infuriate the shit out of me. She literally served up her daughter to that fucking predator that was living in her house on a silver fucking platter. Like, the more that we learn about it, the more it's like, oh, hell no. There's no goddamn way that she didn't fucking know. She had to have known. She had to have known. There was a weird lock on the bedroom where she made her daughter sleep with her boyfriend. It was like a weird fucking lock that locked from the inside, as if they didn't want anyone to walk in on them. You know? Ugh, God. I don't know. I feel so bad for Madeline. Such a sad case. I don't know. Super sad case. But I might make a video about Jen Soto because I really despise her. At first, you know, I was trying to give her benefit of the doubt. I had some weird side eye at her, you know, because I was like, how in the fuck does she not know? And as we covered more and more information, I was like, how does she not know? How does she not know? How does she not know? To the point where the night before Madeline Soto was murdered, Jen Soto said that she sent away her daughter to go sleep with her boyfriend, because I guess she was just being selfish because she just wanted to get good sleep. Ugh. What kind of mother lets her daughter sleep with her boyfriend? Exactly. And the crazy thing is, everyone surrounding them thought it was fucking weird. So Stephen Stearns dated another woman who heard about that and was like, ooh, that's weird. You're sleeping with your girlfriend's daughter in the same bedroom? That's kind of weird. And so she broke up with him. There's a roommate that saw Stephen Stearns and Madeline. I think they were playing video games in the room together. And then she texted, the mom was like, hey, like, you know, they're in a room together. Is that okay? And then the mom just texted, oh, thanks. So like the mom doesn't give a fuck. And then also Stephen Stearns' parents thought it was very inappropriate that the mom would allow the boyfriend to sleep in the same room with the daughter. So like everyone surrounding them thought it was really fucking weird, really fucking inappropriate. But no, Jen Soto, all she cared about was getting good night's sleep. I don't know, she's disgusting. I hate her. So we might make a video about Jen Soto. Because there's a lot of videos about Stephen Stearns. I mean, that guy is absolutely a fucking sicko. But I think we also need to focus on people like Jen Soto as well. People who just don't give a shit about their kids and just only care about not wanting to be lonely and prioritizing themselves. I don't know, like everything that happened to Madeline was also because of her as well. So I hope they get her for something. I don't know if they will though, but I hope they go after her for something. I don't know what. We'll see. You can tell I hate her. All right, y'all. Well, I hope you guys have a good day. Hope you guys take care. And the preliminary hearing for Kouri Richins was a bit of a sleepy one, but I think day 2 was way better than day 1. So I'm kind of glad that I missed day 1. I didn't cover day 1. Day 2, I thought was way more interesting. And I don't know, the stream kind of just ended, so I'm assuming they're not coming back, or maybe something happened to the stream. Pat okay, makes you want to, ... she's a monster. Yeah. She's just, I don't know, she's just pathetic. That's just a word to describe her. She just seems like a very pathetic person. All right. Everyone, take care. I will see you guys tomorrow. We're going to do a Sarah Boone. We're going to cover Sarah Boone tomorrow. And lots to catch up with Sarah Boone. But for now, I think I'm going to cover Donald Adelson's stuff and make a video out of that one. I will see you guys later. And then on Twitch, I definitely want to try to do games today. I got to just figure out Ditto's schedule. All right? You guys have a good one. Take care. It was nice seeing you. It was great chatting with you guys. I love doing the live streams with y'all. And I'll see you.